Chapter 1692. If not for Lin Shen's magnificent move earlier, which had torn open many wounds on God's Scarlet Scorpion's body, they would not have been able to kill God's Scarlet Scorpion so quickly. It could be said that Lin Shen's contribution could not go unnoticed. Lin Shen sighed. It's a pity that I can't give this God's Scarlet Scorpion a final blow. Otherwise, with its willpower, who knows what good things it would drop. However, at least Lin Shen knew his current limit. Furthermore, the attribute light balls dropped by God's Scarlet Scorpion were extremely rich. It could be said to be an ocean. Rumble, bang, bang, bang. After a series of spatial vibrations, the Moon Eclipse Blue Butterfly King and the Black Lightning Mad Bee, the two insect kings, almost fell at the same time. Lin Shen's doppelgangers had surrounded and killed them. The Saint Dragon swept through the sky and absorbed the countless attribute light balls, as well as a dozen attribute treasure chests. Host has received 1,200,000 intermediate strengthening points, 209 Saint Grade Lightning Energy, 100 Saint Grade Wind Energy, 8,000 Top Grade Talent Points, 20 million Saint Grade Essence, 90 million Saint Grade Blood Points. Received 2 Orange Tier Talent Treasure Chests. Open them to receive a random Orange Tier Beginner to Intermediate Talent. There is a small chance of receiving an Orange Tier Talent can be fused. Host has opened 7 Equipment Attribute Treasure Chests. Received 7 Saint Weapon Upgrade Coupons. Using these coupons can upgrade the grade and quality of Saint Weapons. Only limited to Saint Weapons. Host has received 4 Attribute Treasure Chests. Received 2 billion Intermediate Strengthening Points. Host has received 3 Attribute Treasure Chests. Received 900,000 Heaven's Path Points. Lin Shen's attribute points soared all the way. He was calm and composed, and did not find it strange at all. As of now, he already had the combat power to kill a Saint King by himself. These attribute light balls were no longer out of reach. The attribute points dropped by the Bug King would definitely make his foundation even more powerful. This time, Lin Shen's acupuncture point condensation was too terrifying. His combat power had soared by who knows how many levels. If it was the transformation realm Lin Shen, he would only be comparable to a Saint King at best. But now, under the premise of Lin Shen going all out without 10 Saint Kings, no one could stop Lin Shen. The difference was like heaven and earth. When the battle ended, Lin Shen spent close to half a day just to collect the attribute light balls dropped by the Bug Horde. In the void, the will of the Divine Dragon once again constructed the enchantment and met with Lin Shen. On top of a peak, the will of the Divine Dragon and the descendants of the Divine Dragon who could leave the Dragon's tomb were gathered. The Yin-Yang Creation Divine Dragon smiled. Little friend Lin Shen, thank you for your help this time. Lin Shen smiled and said, Senior, you must be joking. I'm a more practical person. Lin Shen's dragon's words. This kid to them, to Lin's will. The dragons to die. Shen's dragons is. The Tianyue prison suppressing dragons said, I don't like to owe people. You saved my dragon clan today, so they shouldn't have come here for nothing. If you want my godly bone marrow, I'll give it to you. Lin Shen cupped his fists and smiled. Great. I like to deal with people like you. The beautiful woman frowned and said, Big brother Tianyu, you're the one who exerted the most effort in the battle just now. Don't injure yourself for the time being. Otherwise, your primordial spirit will be damaged. The Tianyue prison suppressing dragon raised his hand and signaled her to stop talking. He stared at Lin Shen and said seriously, Lin Shen, I can give you the dragon's bones marrow, but I need you to answer a question honestly. Lin Shen's expression did not change. He smiled casually and said, Please be frank, Senior. The Tianyue prison suppressing dragon said word by word, Will you become the enemy of the dragon clan in the future? Or can you promise that you'll never be the dragon's enemy? As soon as he said this, the atmosphere became especially quiet. All the Divine Dragon's descendants looked at Lin Shen in a daze. They were almost holding their breaths. The wills of the mystical dragons were also looking at Lin Shen thoughtfully. That's right. This question was related to the dragon's life and death. Lin Shen's foundation was too terrifying. Since ancient times, there was no one like him. As long as he did not die, he would definitely become the new overlord of the human race. Leading the human race to new heights would no longer be an extravagant hope. At that time, if he turned against the dragons, these remaining divine dragons would be grooming a powerful enemy for themselves. If they were still alive, they could totally kill Lin Shun in the cradle. Or they could have 100 ways to make him make a binding promise. But now, they were just divine dragons' will's will. They could not even leave this divine dragon plane. Some divine dragons could not even leave their own dragon's tomb. This era was no longer their world. The desolate era divine dragons was deeply aware of this. Lin Shun suddenly smiled and said, "If I say so, does everyone here want to cut the weeds and eliminate me by the roots?" The black-robed man shook his head and smiled. "Lin Shun, you don't have to be so aggressive. Even if you say yes, we won't touch you." The beautiful woman in palace gown said helplessly, "Since you dared to charge at us and fight against the red scorpion god's primordial spirit, not only were you immune to our dragon's might without the help of the ancient Taishi dragon, you could even interfere in this battle. We know that you still have a trump card. Even if we join forces, we don't have 100% confidence in keeping you here. We might even offend you and plant a seed of disaster for the dragon's race." Lin Shun gave her a thumbs up and then glanced at a certain princess playfully. "Look at her eyesight. She's indeed different. She's someone from your ancestors' generation after all. You still have much to learn." Princess Xingyue exhaled and made a face at him. She turned her face away in disdain. Luo Shueiyue was helpless. Then, Lin Shun put on a serious expression. "Seniors, you can more or less feel the kind of person I, Lin Shun, am from the battle. I don't want to be associated with evil people. If I want to attack the dragon race, I'll arrange for your divine dragon descendants to come in." He smiled sincerely and innocently. "I'm a person who doesn't offend people if they don't offend me. If they offend me, I'll eliminate them by the roots. I can't prove the guarantee that you want. I have people I love and people I want to protect. If the dragon race touches the people I want to protect one day, I'll also take action. Therefore, I can't give you an absolute guarantee that I won't become enemies with the dragon race. I can only guarantee that as long as the dragon race doesn't provoke me, I won't touch the dragon race. I can even help them improve their bloodline. For example, this." Lin Shun flicked his finger. A green light of attributes circled above the heads of the 3 divine dragon descendants and instantly merged into their bodies. Rumble. The bloodline of the 3 divine dragon descendants instantly increased by 10%. The divine dragon's might was even purer. The 3 of them were wild with joy and intoxicated. They hurriedly thanked Lin Shun. Other than the beautiful woman in palace attire, the other divine dragon wills were dumbfounded. There was such a thing? They could also increase the bloodline potential of their descendants when they were alive. However, they couldn't be as calm as Lin Shun. Just how many secrets was this brat hiding on his body? Princess Xingyue smiled bitterly. "No matter how many times I see his methods, my heart can't take it." Luo Shueiyue, who was at the side, gently stroked her hair and smiled sweetly. "He's always been like this. He never plays by the rules." Princess Xingyue suddenly looked at her and smiled. "You seem to know him very well." Luo Shueiyue smiled. "A little." Chapter 1693. On the other side, Lin Shun shrugged at the divine dragon's wills and said with a smile, "This is my answer to all of you. As long as the dragon race doesn't offend me, I won't be an enemy of the dragon race. In fact, I'll even help you. Even if the dragon race really attacks me one day, as long as it doesn't cross my bottom line, I'll let them off the hook." After saying that, Lin Shun poured himself a cup of hot tea. Holding the tea with one hand, Lin Shun savored it carefully. He was very satisfied and leisurely as he waited for the divine dragon's answer. The divine dragon's wills looked at each other and conversed telepathically. "All right." The young man in a black shirt, led by the Wangu Qingtian dragon, nodded and said, "We only have a small request. Lin Shun, we hope that you can upgrade all the divine dragon descendants here. We'll try our best to fulfill your request. This is both a promise and a deal. What do you think? After witnessing Lin Chen's foundation, the divine dragon's wills also wanted to leave some strength for their descendants to protect themselves. Lin Chen smiled and said, "All of you, you have quite a big appetite." The Tianyue prison-suppressing dragon scratched his head awkwardly. However, Lin Chen was very straightforward. He tapped his fingertips and activated the attribute transfer function. Without needing the target's consent, he could immediately strengthen their bloodlines. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. All 69 divine dragon descendants received the effect of bloodline strengthening +1. They were wild with joy. The 8 prideful ancient dragon descendants looked at Lin Shan with complicated expressions. They did not even dare to think about increasing their bloodline potential. After all, the ancient dragons did not have a dragon tomb here. It was not that easy for them to increase their bloodline. Here, the Tianyue prison-suppressing dragon flipped his hand and threw a jade box to Lin Shan. The box was surrounded by black light and a faint red glow. Inside the box was a piece of white divine bone with a hint of red. Inside the box was a dazzling divine bone marrow. It was in his hands. Moreover, it was several times more than what Long Jioshan had requested. Lin Shan nodded solemnly and thanked him. "Senior, thank you." The Tianyue prison-suppressing dragon stood up. His primordial spirit was in human form, but his expression didn't look too good. He waved his hand before leaving. "Lin Shan brat, if you have the chance, help me support the descendants of the outside world." Lin Shan remembered the prison-suppressing dragon's departure. With this item, his team would have another Saint King-level combatant. Lin Shan then looked at the Wangu Qing Tian dragon. "Senior, I also need the bloodline of the Divine Dragon Atlas. My ancient dragon is compatible with more than one type of divine blood." The moment he said that, the mouths of the divine dragon wills twitched violently. Listen, is this something a human would say? To be able to possess more than one type of divine dragon bloodline, just where did this brat come from? If it wasn't for the fact that he was a pure human, they would even suspect that this kid was the reincarnation of the ancestral dragon. The divine dragon bloodline was absorbing it for fun. The man in the black shirt smiled helplessly. "No problem. I still have some blood essence from the blood pool. If you already have the bloodline of the divine dragon, it shouldn't be a problem to integrate it." Lin Shan snapped his fingers and said with a smile, "Perfect. I didn't work for nothing this time to improve your bloodlines. In that case, there's only one last question left." He said word by word. "May I ask, Senior Divine Dragon Wills, do you have any news about the ancient Taijo dragon?" In an instant, the mountain peak fell silent. The eyes of the divine dragon wills were solemn. Among them, a yellow-robed man, the will of the 9 nether yellow springs dragon, said, "Young friend, why are you looking for news about this senior ancient dragon?" Lin Shan said, "I need its bloodline and ability. It's very important for me to improve my strength." The divine dragon wills looked at each other in shock. Finally, the divine dragon Atlas spoke. "Lin Shan, there are no dragon tombs for ancient dragons here. The ancient Taijo dragon is the strongest among the ancient dragons that control space, time, and dimension. It's also one of the most mysterious existences of the dragon clan. As far as I know, it once went to the Hell Galaxy's plane of disaster and disappeared. I know about this plane." Luo Shueiyue took over the conversation. Her beautiful eyes flashed with a rare trace of fear. The Hell Galaxy is one of the most terrifying galaxies in the universe. The plane of disaster is one of the core areas. It's said that there's a group of powerful and terrifying races living in the Hell Galaxy. Luo Shueiyue stared at Lin Shan and said word by word, "The demon-human clan." Lin Shan was stunned. She advised Lin Shan, "Lin Shan, you're very strong, but not everyone can get close to the Hell Galaxy. Now, the Hell Galaxy is the territory controlled by the demon-human clan, not to mention the heaven-defying demon-human empress. Just the 4 demon-human clan elders are comparable to the divine dragons of our clan." The divine dragons sighed. Such a weak race in the past was so strong now. Lin Shan suddenly said, Is the Hell Galaxy full of the demon-human clan? Luo Shueiwe shook her head. Not necessarily, but must be controlled by the demon-human clan. If you want to go to the plane of disaster, you have to pass through the core area where the higher-ups of the demon-human clan are circling. Not to mention you. Even the gods of the human race may not be able to fight their way in. Lin Shen looked down at the demon seal in his palm. The beautiful and charming face of a beauty appeared in his mind. His eyes were in a trance. I wonder how Yao is doing. He put away his thoughts and smiled. Okay, thank you. This information is very useful to me. Senior Divine Dragon Atlas, take me to the Dragon Tomb. He thought to himself, it seems that after this trip, I have to find time to go to the Hell Galaxy and the demon-human clan's territory. Lin Shen followed the Divine Dragon Atlas into its Dragon Tomb. His clone sat cross-legged and floated in the void. His clone still had to refine the saint-level vitality points dropped by the Bug Tide, the 3 Bug Kings, and the Scarlet Scorpion God. 3 months passed in the blink of an eye. Within these 3 months, the situation of the various races had undergone a shocking change. Desolate demon and devil world. On Heaven Demon Mountain, a demonic shadow appeared out of nowhere. Demonic chi was majestic like a dancing dragon. When all the demonic chi was absorbed into its body, it turned into a 4-eyed demon. It looked like a human, cold and upright. It wore black armor, and its 4 rotating demonic eyes were filled with demonic chi. When it scanned the surroundings, the nearby peak demon venerables immediately knelt on one knee. Buried Sky Crown Prince. The black-armored crown prince said slowly and calmly, Father, why did you call me out? The 2 peak demon venerables respectfully handed over a portrait and said respectfully, Master Buried Sky has an agreement with the various demon emperors. Whoever kills this child first will obtain an inch of 9th Heaven Demon Jade, 100 demon cores, and a drop of Emperor blood. Master Buried Sky hopes that the Crown Prince will come out of seclusion personally and use this child as a training ground to infiltrate the human race and take his head. The black-armored Crown Prince looked down at the handsome young man's face in the portrait, and the corners of his lips curled up. Interesting. Bloodthirsty demonic realm, rumble, a sea of blood churned, rolling up 100,000 feet high blood wave that covered the sky. A graceful figure rolled in the blood wave. She licked her fingertips with her lilac tongue and walked out of the sea of blood with an enchanting smile. A human actually made the various demon emperors personally issue a kill order. Ha ha ha! Interesting. This is really interesting. The red-robed beauty waved her hand, and the sea of blood churned violently. Countless demons appeared on the surface of the sea. Let's go, little ones. We're going to the humans' sacred boundary to play. Chapter 1694. In the heaven-fiend demonic world, a group of demonic palaces stood tall. Hee. This human Lin Shen must have a huge secret. Kill him. With our foundation, we have eaten a few sage kings in the past. Why should we be afraid of a human? Demonic voices shook the heavens as countless demons came out of seclusion. Someone who can attract the attention of the demon emperor is not that simple. Let's wait for the Crown Prince to come out. When the Crown Prince fought with the human race in the past, even the 5th-ranked peerless sage genius could not do anything to him. Human race, can we finally sneak in? I can't wait anymore. In these 3 months, the 4 demonic worlds were in an uproar. A bounty issued by the human race had caused the demons to riot, and the heavenly demon venerable had come out. The demon emperor had personally issued a bounty for Lin Shen. This piece of news was undoubtedly the grandest news in recent times. Those who killed him would be able to obtain countless treasures and fortuitous encounters. Changing one's fate would not be a problem. Countless demons had set the 36 regions of the human race's sacred boundary as their destination. With Lin Shen as their final target, they had secretly started to move. Divine Dragon realm outside the tomb, Lin Shen's silhouette appeared. His illusionary clones appeared one after another, appearing in an instant. In these 3 months, he had not been idle at all. Other than receiving the bloodline baptism of the divine dragon, his doppelgangers had also collected all the divine dragon scales inside and outside the divine dragon realm's ruins. With a thought, Lin Shun opened the system, Heavenly Tao Possession System version 8. 0 host, Lin Shun, cultivation, 5th heaven true, saint essence. 1, 4675. 5 billion points. Limit, 450,000 supreme force. Flesh shell awakening plus 400%. Saint blood chi. 1, 8404 billion points. Saint spiritual energy. 924 billion. Early primordial soul transformation. Saint cultivation techniques soul essence. 9, 2 million points. Saint rune energy. 17. 88 million points. Peak heavens path points. 21. 9 million points. Peak talent points. 78. 76 million points. Set essence. 377 billion points. Intermediate strengthening points. 42 billion points. Sacred elemental energy. Fire 3. 42 million points. Earth 2. 52 million points. Wood 1. 99 million points. Metal 3 million points. Water 2. 8 million points. Lightning 3. 99 million points. Wind 3 million points. Light 2. 44 million points. Darkness 2. 89 million points. Set column. Golden Battle God set. 5 pieces incomplete. Special attribute treasures. Top orange tier cultivation technique fragment. 2/3. 17 Saint weapon upgrade vouchers. 5 exclusive orange tier talent treasure chests. 4 or more treasure chests will definitely drop an advanced orange tier talent. There is a very small chance of a top orange tier talent or a top orange tier one-time talent column. Bloodline status column. Cultivation method status column. Life awakening column. Killing skill column. Characteristic rune column. Divinity pain. Divine elephant 2/3. Divinity fragment. Cooling down. Remaining 177 days before activation. His attributes had skyrocketed. The massive amount of divine dragon scales that Lin Shun had decomposed and the elemental light spheres that he had obtained from killing Scarlet Scorpion deity and the other supreme powerhouses were simply perverted. Lin Shun clicked his tongue in amazement. Truly miraculous, killing 3 insect kings. Although the insect kings were not mainly saint-level essences, their values were still incomparable to ordinary half-step saint kings. My 51st and 52nd saint points are already showing signs of evolving into life and death chi. They might break through at the same time. The higher the foundation, the higher the requirements for breaking through. Lin Shen's foundation could be said to be the highest among the 3-dimensional human race. If he wanted to break through to life and death realm, the accumulation required was countless times harder than ascending to the heavens. System. I want to awaken the 5th stage of mental energy. Consume 2 million heavens path points. Awakening host's mental energy realm. Mental energy instantaneous release speed 1,000 times. Mental energy awakening 5th stage. The current Lin Shen's spiritual light reaction speed was truly comparable to a Saint King or a peak Saint King expert. This was also the reason why Lin Shun needed to split 3 to 4 illusion doppelgangers to attack the 2 insect kings. The illusion doppelgangers only relied on their instincts and Lin Shen's battle experience to fight. Compared to Lin Shen's main body, there was still a slight difference. Under the premise that their spiritual light reaction speed was insufficient, they could make up for it with numbers. But now there was no need for that. If he really wanted to kill a Saint King, 2 illusion doppelgangers would have a higher chance of success. Lin Shun continued. System. Automatic upgrade of ancient Taishi dragon bloodline. Automatic upgrade beginning. Consumed 2 million intermediate strengthening points. Upgrade failed. Beginning upgrade. Upgrade successful. Ancient Taishi dragon bloodline plus 17 completed. Upgrade 150%. consumed a total of 340 million strengthening points. Total upgrade, 670%. Lin Chen's ancient dragon bloodline had finally been upgraded to the upper limit. With the 3 insect kings, the giant insect swarm, over 400 peak insect emperors, and scarlet scorpions, saint-level blood chi, Lin Chen's ancient dragon bloodline was now at 990,000 venerable power. In terms of cultivation, he was also a venerable dragon in the dragon race. One more step, and he would be a dragon king. But breaking through the Dragon King bloodline was no small matter, especially with the ancient dragon bloodline's innate talent. After Lin Chen felt the Dragon King bloodline's limit, he transferred the remaining saint-level blood chi for his main body to absorb. The amount of saint-level blood chi in this battle had even increased Lin Chen's physique tempering strength by a few levels. Lin Chen rubbed his hands and excitedly ordered, "System, I want to use the Sacred Weapon Upgrade Voucher to upgrade all my sacred weapons to Grade 9. The Sacred Weapon Upgrade Voucher was a new attribute treasure that Lin Chen had obtained. This item could forcefully upgrade a sacred weapon's grade. A sacred weapon could only be used once. One voucher could upgrade a sacred weapon by 1 grade, so it was most suitable to use it on Grade 8 sacred weapons. Upgrading host's current sacred weapons: Absolute Flame Saber, Frozen Sky Sword, 9 Heaven Star Fury Bow, Demon Slayer Holy Spear, Lightning Rush Dagger, Rhino Flying Dagger, Scorching Spirit Flying Dagger, Star Chasing Heavenly Morning Robe. A total of 8 Sacred Weapon Upgrade vouchers have been used. Upgrade successful. All upgraded sacred weapons have automatically inherited the original upgrade grade. Boom! Starlight suddenly shot out from Lin Chen's star-chasing heavenly morning robe, as if colorful and dazzling star sand had enveloped it. When it finally returned to normal, its grade had been upgraded by another level. Lin Chen clapped his hands and exclaimed, "Good fellow, this thing can even be used on other people's sacred weapons. What a priceless treasure. Upgrading from Grade 8 to Grade 9, I've crossed the biggest gap in one step." The corners of his lips curled up, revealing his usual coquettish smile. The star-chasing heavenly morning robe is now a Grade 9 defensive sacred weapon, and it's also plus 17. This is awesome. TSK, TSK, TSK. It's 3 grades stronger than before. I'm even tougher than before. The difference between Grade 8 and Grade 9 sacred weapons was huge to begin with. A Grade 9 sacred weapon could increase a sacred king's combat power by about 30%. This was evident, but Lin Chen now had 8 Grade 9 sacred weapons, and they were all plus 17. It could be said that the strongest Grade 9 sacred weapon in the sacred boundary was now in Lin Chen's hands. Lin Chen looked at the options of the 5 orange grade unique talent treasure chests and hesitated. This type of treasure was a true supreme treasure. Lin Chen could only obtain it by killing a Saint King Realmmaster. If he chose to fuse it now, he would definitely obtain a new high-grade orange talent, and it would not be an exaggeration to say that it would become a new trump card. However, whether it was the ultimate heaven-defying, heavenly-defying that could instantly kill, or the supreme god possession that could affect Lin Chen's foundation, they were all high-grade orange talents. Lin Chen had never obtained a top-grade orange talent before. Regardless of whether it was a one-time or permanent one, a top-grade orange talent was like a legend. Lin Chen had even killed the martial god's divine blood clone and the god's will, but he had never obtained a top-grade orange talent. It could be seen that a top-grade orange talent was extremely difficult to obtain. He put away the system and chose not to fuse with the orange-grade unique talent treasure chest for now. A new high-grade orange talent is tempting, but I already have the combat power to kill a sacred king. As long as I collect a few more orange-grade unique talent treasure chests, I could try fusing with a top-grade orange talent treasure chest. If it's a permanent top-grade orange talent, it might become a new trump card for me. Lin Chen slowly walked out of the Atlas Divine Dragon's tomb. A beautiful figure swept across the starry sky from afar. It was Luo Shueiwe. After receiving the guidance of the divine dragon, her temperament had become more elegant than before. Lin Shan was about to greet her when suddenly, his expression changed drastically. Something happened to the Ice Heart Palace. Chapter 1695. In Lin Shen's primordial spirit's sea of consciousness, more than half of the Zhou Tian death seals of the servants were dim and lifeless. This meant that their lives were in danger. Moreover, most importantly, Lin Shen's essence spirit avatar was gone. Just in case, Lin Shen had left his avatar in Ice Heart Palace and Divine Flame Palace, so that he could use superdimensional transfer and ultra space-time to teleport back. However, this was his last resort. The dragon world and the human race's sacred boundary were too far apart. If he used these two skills to teleport back, Lin Shen's top grade talent points would be depleted. Lin Shen's expression instantly turned solemn. My primordial spirit clone was destroyed? I can't even use ultra space-time and universal heaven-death seals. Ice Heart Palace might have undergone a drastic change. Could it be the founding century alliance's doing? The destruction of his avatar was not the most important thing. The most important thing was Lin Shen's servants. When Lin Shan was in seclusion, the servants did not even inform Lin Shen of the crisis. Under the premise that both sides had universal heaven-death seals, if it was not a great crisis, they should have had enough time to inform Lin Shan that something had happened to Ice Heart Palace. Luo Shueiwe saw the sudden change in his expression and asked worriedly, "What's wrong?" Lin Shen's eyes were deep, and he did not answer Luo Shueiwe. He thought to himself, "They didn't even have time to inform me of the crisis." In other words, it was a sneak attack. But according to common sense, even if a powerful Saint King sneak attacked, it should not be able to escape Jiang Taishu and Ling Er's perception. He had encountered a ruthless character. Lin Shen instantly deduced that Ice Heart Palace was in big trouble. Just the fact that Jiang Taishu did not predict this crisis was enough to prove that there were experts on the enemy's side. Moreover, they were not inferior to his team's level. Lin Shen immediately said, "I have to leave the Divine Dragon Plane. The human race has an urgent matter." After saying that, Lin Shen did not even give Luo Shueiwe time to react. He instantly rushed into the space passage opened in the Divine Dragon ruins. Luo Shueiwe hurriedly chased after him and exclaimed, "Lin Shen, wait." After the two of them left, Princess Xingyue and a group of divine dragon descendants appeared. Princess Xingyue's eyes turned and she frowned. "Lin Shen? Why was he in such a hurry? What an idiot. I haven't even given him the ancestral divine dragon's handwritten instructions." Princess Xingyu also immediately entered the space passage, Dragon Realm, Dragon King Palace. The Dragon King Palace was eerily quiet today. It was like the calm before the storm. Buzz! When a spatial light pillar bloomed, the first divine dragon descendant and the second ancient dragon descendant were teleported out. Following that, even more descendants of the divine dragons appeared in the Dragon King Hall. They all had doubtful looks on their faces. Strange, where did the elders go? Are the venerable dragons and the four dragon kings also gone? While the divine descendants were bewildered, a figure suddenly appeared in the air in an extremely strange manner. The divine descendants were shocked. The figure seemed to have been there for a long time, but there was no aura or spatial ripples. The old man hugged his walking stick and had a kind face. He had white hair and a long beard, but he had a youthful complexion. He sat on the clouds, untainted by the mortal world. He looked like an amiable old man with a smile. However, when they saw this old man, the pupils of all the divine dragon descendants shrank. They immediately bowed and slightly bowed. "Greetings, Elder Revelation." The unruly divine descendants even showed a hint of fear. The heavenly mandate elder smiled faintly and said, very good. You all have gained a lot in this divine dragon realm." Elder Revelation's very kind affirmation made all the divine descendants break out in cold sweat. He waved his hand. You may leave." The divine descendants cupped their hands and bowed before carefully leaving. More descendants of the divine dragons descended from the Dragon King Palace and teleported back, but they were all sent away. Whoosh! When the two spatial light pillars descended, the silver robe fluttered and shone brightly. The young man had a handsome face and a cold temperament. His back was straight as he slowly walked out of the spatial light pillar. It was Lin Shun. Buzz! The space instantly distorted, and Elder Revelation's figure appeared like a ghost. A vigorous and powerful palm suddenly crushed toward Lin Shun. The palm wind was not strong, but wherever it passed, it crushed the space into paste. It was especially terrifying. In a flash, Lin Shun used the 9 layers burning sky palm with a backhand. Whoosh! Bang! Flames surged and surged. Lin Shun instantly retreated more than a dozen steps and stood still. Every step he took shattered the foundation of the palace. The ground cracked and collapsed, and the space distorted violently. Lin Shen's chi and blood surged, and his saint power trembled slightly. His eyes instantly became especially fierce, and there was even a hint of violent killing intent. Damn it, that palm, just now, was completely aimed at his life. If not for his fast reaction, even with his current cultivation, he would have been seriously injured by that palm. Wearing a 9th grade defensive divine artifact. You do have a top grade treasure. The other party exclaimed. Whoosh! Rip! The space was violently torn apart. The withered and old palm carried endless blazing light and slammed down toward Lin Shen's head. Whoosh! The palm shattered a large number of cloud shadows and residual light. Lin Shen stepped on the cloud shadows and retreated to the outside of the Dragon King Palace. The space around Lin Shun cracked quickly, and it was as if many dragon claws were crazily tearing at him. It was too fast. Even Lin Shun could not help but look askance. There was actually someone who could keep up with his movement. His cloud shadow heaven's light had been strengthened to plus 17. With his current cultivation base, coupled with the support skill, Ambolite, not many Saint Rulers would be able to keep up with Lin Shun. Boom! Lin Shun fully mobilized his Saint power. When he dodged the dragon claws again, he coldly said, "Are you trying to cause trouble? What's the big deal about a sneak attack? If you have the guts, fight me with real weapons. I'll accompany you to the end. Be careful." At this moment, Luo Shuiwe cried out in alarm to warn Lin Shun. The black lightning-like flowing light shuttled through the void in an instant. Its speed was even faster than Lin Shen's movement technique. Whoosh! The pitch-black dragon tendon shot toward Lin Shun like a coiling dragon. It circled around him in an instant and bound Lin Shun. The black rope released a mighty force that could bind the heavens and bound Lin Shun tightly. Lin Shun narrowed his eyes and looked at the black dragon tendon on his body. This was a special treasure with divinity. The figure of the supreme elder of the heavenly mandate dynasty appeared in the void. Completely different from his amiable appearance just now, his face became ferocious and twisted. His dragon eyes flashed with violence and madness. He bared his teeth and growled in a low voice. "Damn dirty human. How dare you try to tarnish the great relic of the Dragon Clan? I'm going to destroy you today." Lin Shun recalled what Luo Shuiwe had told him. There was a Dragon Pearl's first elder who especially hated the human race. He had few opponents in the Saint Kinghood realm. When he heard that the human race was going to enter the Divine Dragon Plane, it was very likely that he would come out of seclusion to deal with him. Is he that first elder? No wonder he can keep up with my movement technique. He's really a mad dog. Lin Shun was burning with anger. Just as he was about to use the 9 tribulations star on him, whoosh! A beautiful figure turned into a golden light and shuttled through the void. She immediately blocked in front of Lin Shun. It was Princess Xingyue. Princess Xingyue stood in front of Lin Shun and raised an item in her hand at the aggressive heavenly mandate elder who was about to attack. She coldly scolded. "The 7 great divine dragons' handwritten decree is here. First elder, please stop immediately." The scene suddenly fell silent. The heavenly mandate elder growled in disbelief. Divine Dragon's handwritten decree? Chapter 1696. Outside the Dragon King Hall, the Black Domain. In the sky, dragons in human and dragon forms were everywhere. They were all elites of the dragon race, numbering in the thousands. They formed an army and surrounded the area. And in the Black Domain, there were hundreds of dragon elders from the Desolate Era. Each of them was comparable to a human Ninth Revolution saint. Outside the Black Domain, the dragons in the encirclement communicated with each other. I say it's just a human. Is there a need to set up such a huge army? You just join the Elder Hall and don't understand. The First Elder has always been cautious and hates humans. If he escapes, it will be a great humiliation to the dragon race. One look and you can tell that he's a stupid dragon who only knows how to cultivate in seclusion. Use your brain and think about it. A human who can sneak into the dragon world. How can he be compared to ordinary humans? No matter what, even if he's a heavenly king, he can't escape from our dragon world. In the Black Domain, there is a group of revered dragons blocked in front of the dragon elders. Dragon kings, do you know what you're doing? Yes, Lin Shun is our dragon race's friend. Today, the situation is different. We should cooperate with talented people. Even if you don't think for yourselves, why don't you think for the young dragons? Foolish. Great Dragon King, you're foolish. You can't take revenge on Lin Shun just because you're biased and force the blood feud from back then onto him. Outside the barrier of the Black Domain, dozens of revered dragons and dragon kings were protesting. In the void, there were 10 figures floating in the air. Each of them had a majestic aura, like the sun and moon in the sky. Just by standing there, they could intimidate the universe. There were men and women among these 10 people. Their breaths were deep like the sea. The mountain sea prison couldn't compare to 1/10,000th of them. They were like the peerless dragon race. The 10 dragon kings of the Desolate Era. The Desolate Era dragon race's Elder Hall usually decided the important matters of each race. The revered dragons and dragon kings of each race would be present. However, among each race, the one who could decide the important matters and had the most power was the Great Dragon King. There were dozens of revered dragons and many dragon kings in the Desolate Era dragon race. However, there would only be one Great Dragon King, an existence that would lead the entire race. Today, the 10 Great Dragon Kings of the Primordial Era were invited by the Elder of Revelation to expel the Council of Elders. The Elder of Revelation would personally take down Lin Shun. The Heavenly Mandate Elder looked amiable on the surface, but if he really wanted to do something, Longhand was a man of few words. His decisiveness in killing caused the dragons to tremble in fear upon hearing his name. It was fine if he didn't come out of seclusion, but when he did, something big was about to happen. The leader, the 9 Depths Yellow Springs Dragon King, said sternly, "I don't need you to teach me what to do. No matter how big this human secret is, if we take him down, he will belong to our dragon race. The bloodline of the ancient Taishi dragon shouldn't be controlled by humans. This is the most powerful ancient dragon of the dragon race, and it represents the glory and status of the dragon race. If you dare to force your way in today, don't blame me for going to your clans and removing you from your positions." The various dragon kings berated. The revered dragons were slightly reprimanded, and their expressions turned slightly ugly. The 9 Netherworld Yellow Springs Dragon King turned around and looked at the silent Elder Tong Xian. He said indifferently, "Elder Tong Xian, leave this to us. Go back and rest." Bang! Before he finished speaking, the space in the direction of the Dragon King Hall shook, and a violent dragon aura suddenly exploded. They were fighting. Almost all the revered dragons and dragon kings had the same thought in their minds. If the first elder made a move, Lin Shun could only be suppressed in an instant. Boom! The afterimage of a dragon tail swept across the sun, moon, and stars, and suddenly cut open the enchantment. Elder Tong Xian turned into a divine light and escaped. He was so fast that even the Dragon Kings couldn't stop him before they could react. Stop this old guy. He thinks he can turn the tide by himself? Isn't he thinking too highly of himself? The 10 Dragon Kings flashed through the air, and the Dragon Kings and revered dragons immediately chased after them and headed in the direction of the Dragon King Hall. In the square of the Dragon King Hall, at this moment, a 7-color dragon seal was circulating in the palm of the beauty. Its divine power was vast, and its dragon aura was pure. It intimidated the heavenly mandate elder. Lin Shun, who was bound, looked at Princess Xingyue in surprise. He really didn't expect that this woman would stand up to help him. Princess Xingyue coldly scolded, "Heavenly mandate elder, Lin Shun is a good friend of the dragon race. He personally received the handwritten edict and recognition of the 7 divine dragon ancestors. He is qualified to enter the divine dragon plane. If he didn't take the initiative to cause trouble, no one in the dragon race can threaten him except the current divine dragon." The heavenly mandate elder's expression was uncertain. The divine dragon's handwritten edict was left behind by the divine dragon's will. Although he could wield great power in the dragon race and call the wind and summon the rain, he was not qualified to ride on the heads of the ancestors. Otherwise, if the higher-ups found out, he would have to resign and be thrown into prison. However, he definitely couldn't accept letting this human go just like that. At this moment, a group of figures flashed outside the Dragon King Hall. What's going on? This seems to be the divine dragon's handwritten edict. Oh no, Lin Shun has been captured. It was the 10 Dragon Kings of the primordial era, the Dragon Kings, and revered dragons of the various races. The strongest of the dragon world had gathered together. Immediately after, a majestic group of dragons gathered from all directions. Lin Shun was surprised. "Oh, interesting. In order to capture me, so many dragon powerhouses have been mobilized." The leader was the great Dragon King of the Imperial Golden Dragon clan. He was dressed in golden armor and had an imposing appearance. His pair of sharp eyebrows made him look imposing without being angry. When he saw that his daughter was actually protecting this human, he couldn't help but shout angrily, "Xingyu, what are you doing? Don't you know what this child has done?" Princess Xingyu faced her father and scolded him. "Father, I do hate him. However, this can't erase his help and contribution to our dragon race. He shouldn't be treated like this. Even the divine dragon ancestors have recognized him. The dragon race should treat him as an equal." Lin Shun, who was behind the beauty, smiled and said, "I didn't expect Princess Xingyu to speak up for a hooligan like me. I'm really flattered." Princess Xingyu rolled her eyes at him. What kind of situation was this? How could he still be in the mood to joke? Seeing the divine dragon's edict in front of them, Elder Tong Xian and the other revered dragons immediately transmitted their voices to Elder Heavenly Mandate. "First Elder, please reconsider. The divine dragon's edict is one of the highest orders of our dragon race. Non-divine dragons can't interfere with its orders. You should be very clear about this. Lin Shun has already obtained the recognition of the divine dragon ancestors. This fact cannot be disobeyed. It's enough to see that this child is worthy of our race's friendship." Not only the revered dragons and dragon kings, but even the descendants of the divine dragons shouted loudly. "First Elder, Lin Shun has indeed improved the bloodline grade for all of us. Our ancient dragon clan has also received a lot of favors from Lin Shun. He has no ill intentions. Please have a sincere talk with him. First Elder. Lin Shun has done us a great favor. If it weren't for him, we would have been ambushed by the insect tide and returned empty-handed. Please give the order to retreat, First Elder." Facing the large number of voices supporting Lin Shun, the 10 great dragon kings frowned slightly. There were also the dragon kings who supported the 10 great dragon kings of the primordial era. Their eyes were filled with surprise. This child had actually done so much for the dragon race. Chapter 1697. Enough. The Elder of Heavenly Mandate's expression was vaguely ferocious. He said viciously, "A bunch of good-for-nothings. You turned against the human clan after receiving some small favors. Have you forgotten what the stinky human clan did to us?" Lin Shen frowned and thought to himself, "Damn it, this old thing has already given up thinking. He might not let me go and force me to take action." He connected his consciousness to his phantom clone. If anything happened, Lin Shen would no longer show any mercy to the dragon race. He would attack. The heavenly mandate elder pointed at Lin Shen and laughed crazily. "I didn't expect you to deceive the divine dragon of my race. Do you really think that I can't touch you just because you have the divine dragon's protection?" He opened his hands, and an exquisite treasure box appeared in the heavenly mandate elder's hands. Rumble. The pure and mighty might of the divine dragon descended upon the entire Dragon King Hall. The divine dragon's divine light and dragon talismans enveloped the area within a radius of millions of miles. The revered dragons and dragon kings were shocked. The expressions of the great dragon kings were also very interesting. This old guy actually wanted to take that thing out. The heavenly mandate elder laughed sinisterly. "If the divine dragons will wants to protect you, then let the Lord, who is also a divine dragon, judge you." The heavenly mandate elder suddenly opened the treasure box. With a rumble, endless dragon aura gathered in the sky, faintly forming a dragon-shaped altar. Inside the treasure box, the vast and pure divine dragon's heavenly might was dense. It wanted to suppress everything in the mortal world. All the dragons felt the strongest pressure. Lin Shen narrowed his eyes and looked at the sky. He felt the aura of the divine dragon in the dragon aura altar. Princess Xingyue's beautiful face turned pale. She turned and hurriedly said to Lin Shen, "Hurry up and leave. The heavenly mandate elder has used his divine blood." She wanted to untie the black dragon tendon that bound Lin Shen, but her pretty face changed slightly. "Divine dragon tendon? The heavenly mandate elder actually used this thing to deal with you?" Lin Shen grinned and said, "Princess Xingyue, I couldn't tell that you have some foresight." Xingyue scolded, "Are you stupid? Why are you still not serious at this time?" "Princess Xingyu." Lin Shen's starry eyes were especially deep. He quietly stared at Princess Xingyu, causing the beauty's heart to throb for no reason. Her heart was beating wildly, and it felt like a cat was scratching it. She had never seen Lin Shen like this before. Lin Shen said seriously, "Stay away from me. No matter what happens later, don't come near me." Lin Shen looked towards the distant sky, and a wisp of fierce killing intent flashed past his face. Princess Xingyu gritted her teeth and clenched her jade hands. Boom! The majestic, godly dragon altar descended from the sky. Dragon roars shook the firmament. The godly dragon aura was extremely dense. Strands of godly dragon aura turned into dragon shapes and drifted around the altar. Billions of godly dragon talisman scrolls were displaying the dragon race's civilization. Heavenly mandate. I am still in the heavens beyond galaxy. Why did you summon me? Inside the altar, a dragon's head with flowing blue light appeared. When the dragon opened its eyes, it looked down at the elder of heavenly mandate. Greetings, Lord Dragon God. All the dragons knelt on one knee and bowed under the pressure of the godly dragon's might. Luo Shueiyue gritted her teeth. This time, Lin Shen was in danger. The godly dragon decree could protect the upper echelons of the dragon race from touching Lin Shen, but could not restrict the great godly dragon. However, this godly dragon also hated the human race. This godly dragon was one of the godly dragons that controlled the dragon world. It was different from the godly dragon's will in the godly dragon relic. The godly dragon in the godly dragon relic was a godly dragon that had already died. However, this godly dragon's will and body were still overlords that existed in the world. The difference between the two was like heaven and earth. Luo Shueiyue quietly crushed a blue water jade in her palm and said in her heart, Ancestor, you must protect Lin Shen. The heavenly mandate elder bowed respectfully with cupped fists and transmitted his voice to the godly dragon altar, explaining the ins and outs of the matter. Oh, the human who can improve our godly dragon bloodline and sneak into the dragon world to bribe the Elders Guild. The eyes of the dragon head in the altar shone brightly as it looked down at the godly dragon decree in Lin Shun and Princess Xingyue's palms. Following that, a deep dragon voice from the altar spread in all directions. Heavenly mandate, I grant you the right to judge. Help me take down this child. Elder Tong Xian and the others were stunned. It was over. A godly dragon had personally expressed his stance. The heavenly mandate elder was overjoyed. Thank you, godly dragon. He turned around and smiled sinisterly as he stared at Princess Xingyue. Little girl, do you want me to personally crush you? Or do you want to scram yourself? Before Princess Xingyue could express her stance, bang. Lin Shun took a step forward, and the earth shook. His gaze swept outside the Dragon King Palace. He was imposing and domineering. There was a domineering aura between his brows that looked down on the world. I originally promised the 7 godly dragons that I wanted to have a friendly exchange with the dragon race. However, it seems that what the dragon race needs is not an exchange. Lin Shan shouted sternly, "Since you dare to stop me today, I will overturn the dragon world." Since the dragon race was not convinced, then he, Lin Shun, would beat them until they were convinced. So what if he overturned the dragon world? God Slayer. Lin Shin's cold shout resounded throughout the dragon world. Rumble. In the time it took for a spark to fly off a piece of flint, a pure gold talisman exploded above Lin Shin's head, radiating with a boundless will to battle against the heavens and earth. Scarlet light surged into his body, causing Lin Shin's cultivation base to soar instantly. Host has consumed 14 million top-notch talent points and activated the God Slayer talent. There are 1,642 enemies and 982 top-notch Stage 8 dragons. This was the first time he had used the permanent orange-grade God Slayer talent. The number of talent points consumed was simply terrifying. Lin Shin's top-notch talent points did not exceed 90 million points. This time, he had used up nearly 1/6 of them. Boom, boom, boom. Space-time distorted, and the universe trembled. It was as if half of the dragon world was trembling. The divine dragon tendon that bound Lin Shin instantly exploded into powder. A red light split heaven and earth, and with Lin Shin as the center, it suddenly bloomed in the dragon world. Lin Shin's body crazily grew boundless saint power. Blazing lights surged, and red light covered the sky. In the blink of an eye, it soared by more than 100 times, and it instantly broke through the 51st and 52nd saint acupoints. The red light surged and entered Lin Shin's essence soul, saint acupoints, and saint body, and instantly soared. Lin Shin's essence soul covered the entire area. His battle intent gave the entire dragon race a strong pressure, and it even pressed against the divine dragon altar. His battle intent soared into the sky and shook the earth. Lin Shin's essence soul cultivation level soared to the peak of the mid-stage essence soul cultivation level. His saint body stood tall and alone, and as he inhaled and exhaled, storms stirred up the universe, and space-time collapsed. His pure strength temporarily exceeded the power of 1 million Supremes. Successful activation of the God Slayer talent. Overall strength increase, 6,622 times. Cooldown time, 28 days. When the red light disappeared, a silver-robed figure with dense starlight stood on the roof of the Dragon King Palace, looking down at the world and intimidating the universe. His eyes shone with the golden light of the God Slayer. He used the Tai Sky technique to resist the divine dragon's pressure. Lin Shin stood on the Dragon King Palace, and with a spear in hand, his domineering aura surged. Looks like I have to fight my way out of the dragon world. When he looked up at the sky again, he smiled coldly, and all the dragon race trembled. A total of 110 hexagonal starlight shone all over Lin Shin's body. Every saint acupoint was dense with saint power that could cover the stars and the moon. It was as majestic as the abyss and as vast as the sea. The mountain sea prison could not compare to even 1% of it. However, although the 10 saint acupoints were powerful, they had an illusory feeling to them. When all the dragon race saw the number of saint acupoints, silence, an eerie silence. All the descendants of the divine dragons and powerful dragon race experts looked at the silver-robed youth standing on the Dragon King Palace, and they were dumbfounded. He was still holding back. Heavens, how many trump cards does this guy have? Chapter 1698. Rumble. Bang. Outside the Dragon King Palace, all the buildings were turned into dust by Lin Shen's saint power. Lin Shen's saint power of 100 saint points had broken through the barrier of 1 million venerable saint power. Although there was a breakthrough in physique refinement, including the flesh shell awakening, it was only 450,000 venerable saint power. Now, with the activation of the God Slayer, even the saint physique saint power had temporarily risen to 1 million venerable saint power. This meant that Lin Shen could fight as Saint King with just his pure strength, without using saint power. When Lin Shen stepped into the Dragon King Palace, he felt the saint power in his body skyrocketing. It was tainted with the chi of life and death, becoming unprecedentedly abundant and powerful. Complete life and death realm. This time, the God Slayer talent allowed me to forcibly open 10 saint points. The saint points opened by the God Slayer talent cannot be absorbed by the Tai space. My current saint points should be 6th level saint, life and death realm. Opening 10 saint points could increase saint power by 5 times. Lin Shen's complete transformation realm combat power was 1 million venerable saint power. Under the premise of 5 times increase, Lin Shen's saint power could reach more than 6 million venerable saint power. It was far beyond ordinary saint kings. Peak middle primordial spirit realm, physique refinement realm, and saint point saint power had reached 6 million venerable saint power. With the combination of physique refinement realm and saint power, Lin Shen's combat power had reached another level. Lin Shen's gaze swept across the crowd, and everyone was shocked. The Dragon King's mouths trembled, and a chill ran from the bottom of their feet to the top of their heads. If they had not seen it with their own eyes, they would not have believed it. This was no longer a shock, but a naked shock. His strength had soared by several levels. Since ancient times, no one had seen such a monster. What? The heavenly mandate elder's face was full of astonishment. There is such a human. The 10 Dragon King's pupils constricted as they stared at the shining saint points on Lin Shen's body. Even the great Dragon King, who was the leader of the primordial dragon clan, had never seen such a monster. Wasn't the cultivation system of the human saint realm at 100 saint points? The question was, what was 110 holy points? 110 saint points? What kind of joke is this? The human race actually gave birth to such a monster. No, something is very wrong. His 110 saint points are still only at the peak of life and death realm. The great Dragon Kings cried out in shock. Their dragon eyes were filled with astonishment that overturned their understanding. Even the powerful divine dragons will, on the divine dragon altar, could feel Lin Shen's unique saint energy pressure. Not only was this young man able to resist his divine might, but the power of his saint acupoint far surpassed that of an ordinary saint king. I've fought with so many human true gods, but I've never seen a human like this. 100 saint points to become a saint king. This is the only way for a human to become a god. However, this child has surpassed the current human cultivation system. The dragon gods was moved. He thought of an extremely terrifying possibility. Could it be that he created a brand new cultivation system that can nearly double the number of saint acupoints? If that was the case, this child would surpass any human true god in the future. Boom! Lin Shen waved the demon-slaying spear lightly and tore apart a large space in the dragon world. He laughed loudly. I'm going. Everyone in the dragon world, are you ready? When Lin Shen took a step forward, he instantly disappeared. The sky was instantly filled with bloody afterimages. Rip! Lin Chun ignored the divine dragon's pressure. With a spear in hand, he rode on the heavenly light and charged toward the Revelation Elder in a split second. He thrust his spear forward, and millions of lightning bolts exploded like a heavenly dragon. The Revelation Elder's palm turned into a dragon claw and suddenly tore down. Boom! Bang! Endless thunder and lightning swept up in the sky above the Dragon King Palace. Like a sea of thunder, it tore apart the enchantment above the Dragon King Palace. Streaks of dark lightning shot out from all directions and spread across the sky like electric snakes. A figure retreated rapidly. When all the dragons focused their eyes, the one who was repelled was actually the first elder, the Revelation Elder. The Revelation Elder dominated all realms. There were very few Saint Kings who could compare to him. This face-off, it was actually Lin Chun who took the upper hand. Rip! Lin Chun stepped on a cloud shadow. With a spear in hand, he flashed behind the Revelation Elder. In an instant, he struck 1,000 times with his spear. Lin Chun waved his hands rapidly. The demon-slaying spear was like a peacock spreading its tail. His spear technique was superb. Lin Chun waved his spear. Every move was fatal. He pushed forward layer by layer. His spear technique was smooth and unrestrained. It was as if there was no one around. He beat the Revelation Elder all the way. Roar! You're pissing me off. Human brat, I want you dead. The Revelation Elder roared angrily. The sky shattered. Many dragons felt pain in their eardrums from the roar and hurriedly retreated. The Revelation Elder transformed into a dragon in the sky. His dragon scales were dark green. He had a long beard on his face. His body was like a long snake. He was like an invincible divine dragon that had descended to the world. The vast dragon head swallowed clouds and spat out fog. His entire body was destroyed by the dragon clan's talismans, shining brightly. His dragon body danced in the sky. He was actually an ancient azure dragon. His divine dragon bloodline was the closest to a divine dragon. Die! Once his dragon body appeared, the Revelation Elder's aura soared by 30%. He swept his claw down. Rip! The claw swept across and crushed Lin Chen's bloody afterimage. Did he tear through the air? His silver robe fluttered and the stars shone. Lin Chen stood on the Revelation Elder's dragon head with the demon-slaying spear in his hand. He was so fast that even the Revelation Elder was dumbfounded. Lin Chun sneered coldly. Stop pretending. Get lost. You shameless old thing. Buzz. Lin Chen's primordial spirit condensed into 8 burning dragons. When the primordial spirit's burning dragons gathered in his fist, it gathered his divine power, pure strength, and primordial spirit power into a punch. Bang! 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 The ancient azure dragon's body exploded. Lin Chen's punch was a trinity. It contained all kinds of powers. It directly triggered the destructive explosion and destructive explosion, injuring the Revelation Elder with one punch. Before the Revelation Elder was injured, he rolled his tail and crushed Lin Chun like lightning. Bang! Lin Chun fell to the ground, and the earth veins collapsed violently. He was like a shooting star. However, Lin Chun was unscathed except for his surging blood chi. The power of the 9th grade, star-chasing heavenly morning robe was fully displayed. Let's go too. We can't let this brat do whatever he wants. Old Jean, you block those guys. The 10 Dragon Kings started to move. When Elder Tong Xian wanted to stop the battle from worsening, a gray-robed Grand Supreme Elder blocked his way. He was one of the 3 elders who opposed Lin Chen's entry into the Divine Dragon Plane. The gray-robed Elder laughed sinisterly. Tong Xian, this brat must die here. Elder Tong Xian said in a low voice. You're pushing the dragon race to their deaths. The gray-robed Elder said. The human race has no possibility of saving the dragon race. The dragon race should rely on themselves. Make your move. Let me see how much you've grown since then. The 2 elders clashed in an instant. The Dragon Kings and venerable dragons of other races who supported Lin Shun were also blocked by the teams and Dragon Kings dispatched by the 10 Dragon Kings. A great battle broke out inside the Dragon Realm. On the other side, the 10 Dragon Kings attacked aggressively. The great Dragon King of the sky, riding Golden Dragon, opened his mouth and spat out a sharp golden storm. It was invincible and suddenly slashed toward Lin Shun. Lin Shun stepped on the cloud. When he dodged, his cold shout spread inside and outside the Dragon Realm. The Dragon Realm wants to fight? Then don't blame me for destroying your Dragon Realm. Chapter 1699. A cold shout shook the dragon world. Lin Shen's spear, dark thunder, 10,000 caddies, broke the sky, and suddenly smashed on the head of the heavenly mandate elder. The lightning pierced through and tore through the layers of dragon scales. The elder of revelation was in so much pain that he flipped his dragon tail and used destructive explosion continuously, tearing his flesh apart. Countless descendants of the divine dragons were shocked. They had never seen the elder of revelation like this. He was being one-sidedly suppressed. If a normal Sage King had Lin Shen's Saint Power cultivation, they might not be able to suppress the Elder of Revelation. However, Lin Shun was completely different, not to mention that all his techniques had been strengthened and their power had been multiplied. Coupled with the 9th grade Sacred Spear, Enhancement plus 17, and various orange grade talents, he was monstrously powerful. Lin Shun, you scoundrel, don't be presumptuous. You're just a human. Don't come to my dragon world to be arrogant. This is not a place for you humans to be arrogant. Kaboom! Among the 10 great dragon kings, 5 of them had transformed into their true forms. Their dragon bodies covered the stars and the moon, and their dragon claws could break thousands of stars. Each of the great dragon kings was close to or on par with the Elder of Revelation strength. The last time they attacked a living being together was during the War of the 9 Races. Clang! Lin Shun did not use his spear. Instead, he used his absolute flame sacred saber and slashed out. Splat! Wong! 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 The rapidly spinning saber aura was like a wave of saber waves. It spun rapidly and split into 5. The next moment, bang! The spinning saber aura suddenly exploded, and the saber aura shards bloomed inside and outside the dark domain. They suddenly shot toward the 10 great dragon kings. At this moment, all the dragons' pupils shrank. Damn it, what kind of crazy attack was this? Previously, all of Lin Shun's attacks would be focused on one point. Even if they were powerful, they would only appear in a small space. However, God's Tear was the complete opposite. With Lin Shun's current saint energy, which was equivalent to 6 million venerable power, the God's Tear's AoE attack was like a dragon's hell. This was especially so for the Dragon Kings, who reacted almost instantaneously. Quick, protect the descendants of gods. Mother Asterisk Kerr, is this even a human's attack? All the Dragon Kings stopped fighting one another. They either released their dragon chi or transformed into their dragon forms to protect their divine dragon descendants. The number of saber chi fragments was more than 100,000. It was in the millions. Every fragment of the saber aura contained sharp saber light of the essence soul, fragmented light of the energy, and holy power saber light, which made it impossible for the dragons to guard against. Bang! 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 The blade energy shards, which were as beautiful as broken jade, madly attacked the positions of the 10 Dragon Kings and the Elder of Heavenly Mandate, causing chaos inside and outside the Dragon Realm. Inside and outside the Black Domain, smoke billowed, space was in chaos, and storms wreaked havoc. With Lin Shun's current cultivation level, the God's Tear Saber Strike was a genuine, gigantic natural disaster. One slash could kill countless celestial bodies. The 10 great Dragon Kings were forced to retreat for the first time. Some of them defended forcefully. Some revealed their true forms to protect the descendants of the Divine Dragon, and some covered the retreat of the Elder of Heavenly Mandate. Something's wrong. The 10 great dragon kings suddenly felt something strange. The attack launched by Lin Qin actually had the feeling of affecting time. It made the great dragon kings vaguely unable to feel the flow of time, which almost caused them to misjudge the timing of their defense. However, even Lin Qin himself was not aware of the wonderful changes brought about by his sacred artifact. When most of the smoke dissipated, all the dragons completely sucked in a breath of cold air when they sensed the situation nearby. The entire black domain was directly razed to the ground. One had to know that the space of the Dragon Realm's black domain was second only to the space of the Dragon King domain. It was even more solid than the space of the Saint King domain of the human race's sacred boundary. In terms of area, it was comparable to 10 celestial bodies connected. Such a huge area and space was actually flattened by Lin Shun with one slash. What kind of monster is this guy? This is not the only trick I have. When the smoke spread out, Lin Shun held the 9 Heaven Star Fury bow in his hand and aimed at the 10 great dragon kings. Burning Sky Arrow. Lin Shun drew the bow fully, his palm flowing with colorful light, and shot an arrow at the 10 great dragon kings. A burning meteor flashed across the sky, and everywhere it passed, auspicious light rushed into the sky, burning the black domain into a crimson red. In the next moment, the arrow light split into 5, with a shocking domineering aura that could shatter heaven and earth and pierce through the universe. Human race brat, don't be too arrogant. You're just relying on the fact that we want to protect these young descendants. Do you really think you can deal with us when we join forces? Among the 10 great dragon kings, 4 of them were about to stand out and fight Lin Qin head-on. Rumble. Rip. A heaven-splitting dragon claw tore down from the 9 heavens, crushing Lin Qin's shocking arrow. Lin Qin's expression was solemn. On the divine dragon altar, a figure finally walked out, covering the sky and earth, instantly becoming the center of the dragon realm's black domain. The dragon race's divine dragon, the desolate ancient azure dragon. His clone was finally going to make a move. Previously, when the descendants of the various dragon clans were here, he respected his status and thought that with the 10 great dragon kings, the Revelation Elder, and the various elders present, they should be able to take down this kid no matter what happened. However, Lin Qin's explosiveness and combat strength completely stunned him. Indeed, if the 10 great dragon kings did not need to protect the descendants of the divine dragons and went all out, it might not be too difficult to take down this kid, but they would definitely have to pay a certain price. Since that was the case, he could only do it. The primordial azure dragon said coldly, "Young human, I acknowledge your combat strength and potential. In the future, given enough time, it is not impossible for you to surpass the gods of the human race, and even surpass me. However, you must stay in the dragon clan forever." Rumble. The primordial azure dragon pointed a finger in the air, and a golden rainbow split the sky. There was no technique, only pure power condensed to the extreme. The primordial azure dragon's clone was not like the divine dragon's will in the divine dragon plane. He was at his peak now, and this clone was at the level of the martial god's divine blood clone. Sky burning arrow, extreme tower sky splitter, divine strength sky, cleaving sword. Lin Shun drew his bow and released a shocking arrow. The divine arrow, surrounded by blazing flames, shot toward the primordial azure dragon. Immediately after, he switched to the sky freezing sword and slashed horizontally. This sword condensed pure power, primordial spirit, and saint power. It was unleashed at full force, splitting the huge waves and forming a shocking giant sword to slash at the primordial azure dragon. Lin Qin's attack was divided into 5 parts. The 10 great dragon kings reacted quickly. They spread their wings or breathed, creating barriers and barriers to protect all living beings inside and outside the black domain. Both sides' attacks collided head-on. Rumble. Bang. 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 An energy storm exploded, sending scorching heat waves millions of feet high. Sword rays shot in all directions, and the solid space of the black domain turned into dust. It was a shocking sight. Crawl! Lin Chun flicked away a few shattered sword rays with his spear. Blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. He stepped on a cloud and rushed toward the primordial Azure Dragon's clone without retreating. Those who try to stop me, Divine Dragon Shining Hammer. The asterisk am in it. Come again. The young man's silver robes fluttered, and a red glow rose from his body. His battle prowess was unstoppable, and he was like a ferocious dragon. He waved his spear and charged into the energy storm. He was invincible, and he looked like he was going to turn the dragon world upside down. This scene made the legs of all the dragons tremble. Lin Chen's domineering and ferocious manner caused the hearts of all the dragons to tremble. He could still fight the Divine Dragon's clone. How could he be so fierce? Chapter 1700. Rip. The azure-robed Divine Dragon clone pulled with both hands and tore apart the energy storm. When he saw Lin Chun, who was traveling through space, a cold smile appeared on his face. How dare you be so arrogant after taking a casual blow from my clone? You overestimate yourself. You're courting death. The Divine Dragon clone curled up the dragon tail behind him and suddenly swung it down. It was so fast that it split the sky of the dark domain into two. This tail was enough to kill a Sage King. Suddenly, a grayish-white talisman that covered the stars and the moon descended from the sky. Host has activated the 8th grade slowdown rune. 1,700,000 points of Saint grade rune energy are consumed. An earth-shattering slowdown rune that froze the endless void appeared, suppressing dragons and sealing demons. When the slowdown rune exploded, the sky became especially stagnant and solid, as if all the space fragments were frozen. The slowdown rune was not very effective when used directly on experts above the Sage King level. However, it was still very effective when used to weaken the opponent's attack. The Divine Dragon clone narrowed his eyes and felt his dragon tail pause for a moment. Chi! Bam! 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 When the dragon tail crushed the slowdown rune, the Divine Dragon clone clearly felt its attack power weakened significantly. A dark lightning dragon with a sharp spear aura pierced toward him and split into 5. Clang! With a crisp explosion, Lin Chen's demon-slaying spear was sent flying by the Divine Dragon clone's tail. As if he had suffered a heavy blow, he vomited blood and flew backward. The Divine Dragon clone flashed over and sneered. Human, no matter how strong you are, as long as it doesn't exceed the level of a Sage King, I will always be stronger than you. When he flashed in front of Lin Chun, he slapped down on Lin Chen's head. It was too fast, so much so that when the Dragon Kings reacted, the divine power in his palm was enough to destroy ghosts and gods. It had already reached Lin Chen's head. Bam! Lin Chun exploded with a single slap. No! 2 desperate female screams echoed between heaven and earth. However, the Divine Dragon clone's pupils shrank, as if he had realized something. However, there was no trace of blood on the blasted Lin Chun. To think that there is such an exquisite and profound clone technique in this world. He quickly released his Divine Dragon aura and swept through the black domain. He sensed another location of Lin Chun. It was right above his head. The Divine Dragon clone abruptly raised his head and looked over. The young man swung his palm violently, and a beam of 9-colored aurora shuttled between heaven and earth and shot toward it. Try this, the Divine Dragon clone of the dragon race. The 9-colored starlight split into 5, and the Divine Dragon clone's pupils shrank, buzz. Space trembled and time warped. It was as if everything in the world was about to be transformed into nothingness. 5 9-colored pillars of light bloomed within the dragon realm's black domain. They were magnificent and majestic, connecting heaven and earth. When they spun slightly, They were resplendent and dazzling, blooming with fatal starlight. Even with the divine dragon clone blocking at the front, the enchantment set up by the 10 great dragon kings actually nearly collapsed. When the starlight dissipated, all the dragons held their breaths and looked at the sky. "It can't be," a great dragon king said in disbelief. The shoulders of the ancient, desolate dragon clone were split open, and the dragon scales were exposed. There was a faint, bloody line in front of its chest. A large number of attribute light balls dropped, and there were even 5 attribute treasure chests. He had actually managed to injure the divine dragon clone. In the black domain, the heavenly mandate elder's body trembled, and his eyes were filled with unconcealable fear. If he had faced Lin Chen's move alone, he would have lost half his life, even if he defended with all his might. Host has triggered the destructive tear twice and the destructive explosion once. As Lin Chen quickly refined the golden Saint Origin coins to recover, a look of relief flashed across his face. If he had not triggered the destructive explosion once, he could only injure his opponent once at most. The divine dragon clone was indeed powerful. If it had been a real dragon, his 9 tribulation star might not even have been enough to scratch its itch. The ancient, desolate dragon looked at the clone's wound and slashed furiously. It felt an unprecedented humiliation. First, the clone feinted to give it no chance to escape. Then, the clone injured it with a killer move. It felt as if it had been played by a creature countless times weaker than itself. "Very good, very good. You dare to injure my clone. It has been many eras since someone like you appeared. You deserve to be killed with all my might." The ancient, desolate dragon laughed in anger. Dragon scales appeared all over its body. It stretched out its claws and swung its tail angrily. It was going to turn into a dragon. Lin Chen narrowed his eyes. In an instant, the 5-piece God of War set was attached to him. "Stop!" A blue dragon light appeared out of thin air. A beautiful woman in a phoenix dress and 2 jade ribbons danced in the air. She looked graceful and elegant as she stared at the ancient, desolate dragon in the void. Luo Shueiyue, who was in the distance, finally felt relieved when she saw the ethereal beauty. "You can't touch him, Huatsong." The woman was radiant and elegant. She scolded coldly. "I have received my sister's order. I, the extreme hell water divine dragon, will protect this boy, not to mention his great contributions to the dragon race. Even if he didn't, I, the extreme hell water divine dragon, will protect his life." Lin Chen was surprised. This was also a divine dragon clone. The extreme hell water divine dragon? Why would she help him? Perhaps it had something to do with Luo Shueiyue and the divine dragon's will and the divine dragon's relic. The ancient desolate dragon raised an eyebrow and sneered. "What? You like this boy? An old cow eating young grass? Since when is it your turn to teach me how to do things? Get out of my way, or I'll beat you up too." The woman in the phoenix dress smiled sweetly, revealing a bone-chilling coldness. "Oh, you're very tough. Why don't you give it a try? Let's give it a try." The ancient desolate dragon was enraged. He roared, 10 great dragon kings and heavenly mandate, listen up. Take this boy down." He still wanted to fight. The ancient desolate dragon was determined to take Lin Chen's life today. Lin Chen suddenly laughed. "There's no need to fight." Kaboom! Bam! 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 Suddenly, there were dozens of earth-shattering explosions in the dark domain. The entire earth veins and earth veins exploded into smoke. "Oh no! The crown prince is gone. I saw a blood-red shadow flash by just now. We've been tricked. This boy purposely made us attack when we gathered the princess and the descendants of God together. Where is he? Where did he go? He's too fast. Does this boy still have helpers?" The group of dragon elders was in a mess. Whoosh! 4 illusionary clones appeared around Lin Chen, as well as his ancient desolate dragon clone. A 1,000 feet long water prison floated in the air. Countless water blades and chains shot out from the water prison, binding the 50-odd descendants and ancient desolate dragon descendants in the prison. Seeing this, The 10 great dragon kings were horrified. Even the 10 great dragon kings did not expect this move. Lin Shen's aura concealment was too perfect. No matter what, it was the assassination technique of the strongest assassin in the heavenly sanctuary. Lin Shen smiled. His smile was pure and bright, like a rose flower. Everyone, I've said before that I can make the dragon tribe rise to power, but I can also make you fall into a nightmare. If you want to have no descendants, I don't care. These carefully selected descendants of the divine dragons are the best of the best who can enter the divine dragon plane. If they die in one breath. Lin Chun sighed. I gave you a chance, but you didn't cherish it. Chapter 17:01. All the dragon kings were stunned. That was right. Lin Chun now held the lives of most of the divine dragon descendants in his hands. He did not use the phantom doppelganger just now, because he had a backup plan. Some of his doppelgangers would take down the divine dragon descendants, while others would be in charge of escaping secretly, ready to activate hyperspace and hyperdimensional transportation to teleport to the location where the doppelgangers were escaping secretly. It was easy to do things with many doppelgangers. Even when he was having fun, he was twice as happy. Some of the Dragon Kings tried to activate their bloodline powers to secretly rescue the divine dragon descendants in the water prison. Lin Chun smirked. Don't waste your energy. The tricks you left for them won't be able to escape from my extreme hell heavenly prison. It's still a peerless divine ability. Who are you looking down on? The 10 great dragon kings looked terrible, as if they had swallowed hot feces. Lin Shin turned to look at the ancient, desolate azure dragon, raised an eyebrow, and said mockingly, How about it? Do you want to see if your claws are faster than my big black spear? I'm a person who can be fast and long-lasting. I'm never afraid of being fast or long-lasting. Your Excellency, are you interested in making a bet? No matter how angry the ancient, desolate azure dragon was this time, he did not dare to act rashly. 1 or 2 divine dragon descendants was fine, but there were dozens of them. There were also a few ancient dragon descendants, and they were all elites who had entered the divine dragon ruins and received teachings from the divine dragon. If they forced this kid into a corner and killed him instantly, it would be a heavy blow to the dragon clan. Perhaps in the short term, with the dragon clan's current foundation, losing these dozens of divine dragon descendants would not be a problem. However, the problem would gradually be exposed in the future, and it would be even more serious. Without new blood to replenish the dragon clan, the loss of power in the upper echelons would be especially severe. These divine descendants would become dragon kings, or even great dragon kings in the future. When that time came, he, the ancient desolate azure dragon, would have to bear the main responsibility. He would not be able to withstand the suppression of the divine dragons from the other clans. The same went for the heavenly mandate elder. If these dozens of divine dragon descendants died, he would be forced to stop, unless he could break through and become a divine dragon of his generation. Divine dragon, please reconsider. Our clan can't lose them. Divine dragon, let this kid go. If the demigods are killed, who knows how much effort and epics we will have to spend to cultivate this new batch of forces. The 10 great dragon kings gave in and transmitted their voices to the divine dragon. Lin Shin observed their expressions and continued with a smile. I'm going to use the fastest spatial passageway in the dragon realm. Before I officially leave the dragon realm, these people's lives are in my hands. If you dare to act rashly, I'll immediately slaughter them all. He smiled faintly. Don't try anything fancy with me. You don't have any room for manipulation. What? The primordial azure dragon was enraged. He did not care about the lives of these mystical dragon descendants, but these fellows could not die because of him. The beautiful woman in the phoenix dress stood in front of him and said coldly, Enough, let's end this here. Don't forget that they only went to explore the God Emperor's ruins. If they return and find out that you touched their descendants, you should know their temper. The primordial azure dragon's eyes flickered a few times. Its tense appearance finally relaxed a little as it said coldly, Lin Chun, I can let you leave, but you must first hand over half of the hostages. Huh? Lin Chun sneered. Sir Dragon God hasn't appeared in the world for too long. Has he lost his mind? Or have I overestimated your intelligence? Before I leave the Dragon Realm, I won't let any of them go. If I leave the Dragon Realm safely, they can return in one piece. The primordial azure dragon was furious. You dare to insult me? Why should I believe you? Lin Chun spat. Because I'm more trustworthy than you, Dragon Tribe. If you don't believe me, you could take a gamble. The various Dragon Tribe powerhouses' eyelids twitched wildly as they watched. Lin Chun opposed him with equal harshness and really did not give him any face at all. Silence. A suffocating silence. The primordial azure dragon was so angry that he wanted to slap Lin Chun to death. After living for so many eras, this was the first time he was controlled by a brat like this. Forget it. Scram, I'll let you go now. If you want to kill these fellows, do as you please. The primordial azure dragon flicked his sleeves and left, turning into a wisp of smoke as he returned to the altar. Finally, he disappeared. At least he let Lin Chun go. If Lin Chun killed these divine dragon descendants, Lin Chun would have to bear this grudge. As long as the main responsibility was not on him, it was fine. The woman in the phoenix dress looked at Lin Chun and said softly, Lin Chun. Lin Chun raised his hand. No, Senior, my spear already has an owner. I won't be meeting you. The woman in the phoenix dress, Lin Chun said, Senior, I'm in a hurry. The woman in the phoenix dress rolled her eyes at him. Come with me. After Lin Chun released his clone and the divine dragon to quickly collect the attribute light balls, he did not bother to look at what he had obtained and fled. Supreme Water Deity. The 10 Dragon Kings wanted to speak. The woman in the phoenix dress stopped them and said, You guys stabilize the dark domain first. I'll be responsible for the safety of these divine descendants. If anything happens, I'll guarantee it. The 10 Dragon Kings looked at each other and could only accept the order. The Heavenly Mandate Elder looked at Lin Chun's back as he left. His old face was faintly ferocious, and his heart was filled with unwillingness. Lin Chun, I'll remember you. Our dragon clan will definitely repay such a great humiliation. Dragon World, Sky City. The woman in the phoenix dress personally led Lin Chun to this place. This was one of the space strongholds that connected the Dragon World to the outside world. It was the fastest place to go to the Divine River Galaxy, where the sacred boundary between the great wilderness and the human race was located. The woman in the phoenix dress stepped into the air above Sky City and apologized to Lin Chun. Lin Chun, today's matter. Lin Chun smiled casually. The dragon race's situation is complicated. I understand. After saying that, Lin Chun removed the extreme prison, heavenly prison, and released the dozens of divine dragon descendants. The woman in the phoenix dress was surprised. You released them just like that. Aren't you afraid of me? Lin Chun nodded. A little. But even if you attack me, I have enough confidence to escape now. It's just a waste of time. Moreover, I believe in my judgment and that of the other divine dragon descendants. After all, without their cooperation, I can only capture half of them at most. Cooperation? The woman in the phoenix dress was stunned. Then she looked at the divine dragon descendants in surprise. You let him capture you on purpose? Yes, please understand, Supreme Water God. A handsome divine descendant cupped his fists and said sincerely, Friend Lin Chun has helped the dragon race many times. He is sincere in cooperating with the dragon race. We shouldn't treat him with prejudice. The dragon race needs allies to be wary of the current situation. Although the divine dragon descendants present were proud and arrogant, they were also the most elite of the dragon race. Their foresight and experience were not comparable to ordinary masters. Lin Chun had won them over, and they also saw endless possibilities in Lin Chun. They were determined to be on good terms with Lin Chun. That was why they pretended to be prisoners and secretly helped Lin Chun escape. Chapter 1702. The woman in the phoenix dress sighed. With all of you in the dragon race, I can retire in peace. Lin Shen smiled at Luo Shuiwe. You were the one who called this senior over, right? Luo Shuiwe shook her head indifferently. It's good that you're fine. Next time, don't be so arrogant. Brother Lin Shen. At this moment, the divine dragon descendants cupped their fists and greeted him respectfully. I hope you don't take what happened to the dragon race today to heart. From our standpoint, we will always welcome you to the dragon world. Lin Shen smiled and said, straightforward people, I like it. See you in the future. I'm in a hurry. I'm leaving. When he turned around, Luo Shuiwe reached out to speak. Wait a minute. The one who spoke was Princess Xingyue. She subconsciously blurted out, will you come back in the future? As soon as she said this, the divine dragon descendants all stared at Princess Xingyue with a hint of ridicule or ambiguity. Lin Shen waved his hand without turning back. It's the same whether I come back or not. In the future, I will either die or see my story everywhere in the universe. When Lin Shen just entered the spatial passage of Sky City, dozens of starlight descended from the sky and landed on the heads of the divine dragon descendants. With a rumble, the bloodline pressure of all the divine dragon descendants present soared again. Their bloodline grade soared again. It's His Excellency Lin Shen who helped us improve our bloodline again. This is an opportunity bestowed to us by our friend Lin Shen. The divine dragon descendants were ecstatic. The woman in the phoenix dress revealed a rare look of shock as she stared at Princess Xingyue and Luo Shuiwe. These two's bloodline had improved the most. It had more than doubled in a short period of time. Lin Shen of the human race is really a magical human. No wonder Luo told me to take care of this young man in the message Dragon Jade. It's true. Host has received 2 orange grade talent exclusive treasure chests. Host has received 4 sacred grade upgrade coupons. Total of sacred grade upgrade coupons, 11. Host has received 2 billion mid-grade strengthening points. Inside the spatial passage, the system screen flickered repeatedly, and Lin Shen withdrew his clone that was hiding in the dragon world. He had no time to think about how many attribute light balls and attribute treasure chests he had obtained. While God Slayer status was active, Lin Shen would not gain any growth attribute points, and the attribute points he would lose would be reduced. At this moment, his expression was grave. According to the Water Divine Dragon's clone, the fastest spatial passageway in the dragon world would take 7 days to reach the Great Wilderness. It would take too much time for the Great Wilderness to enter the sacred boundary. He needed to return to the sacred boundary to find out the exact location of his servants through the universal cycle seal of life and death. Otherwise, if the distance was too far, even Lin Shen's primordial spirit wouldn't be able to sense it. The God Slayer innate skill still needs some time to cool down. This time, I have a clear idea of my maximum combat power. If we were to deal with the Genesis Alliance, we should be able to fight them together. Lin Shen's heart flashed with a sharp killing intent. Everyone, you must be safe. Lin Shen seized the time to recover his Saint Point holy power and deactivated his God Slayer status. Then, Lin Shen turned on the system. System, I want to awaken the 5th stage of the flesh shell. Previously, after injuring the Heavenly Mandate Elder and the Primordial Azure Dragon's Divine Dragon clone, Lin Shen had obtained a large amount of top-grade Heavenly Path points. Since he had some left, he might as well awaken another round. Consumed 3 million top-grade Heavenly Path points. Awakening successful. The host's flesh shell has reached 100% of the 5th stage. Total strength increased by 500%. Lin Shen's pure strength soared to 499,000 venerable power. 500,000 venerable power was a limit. In terms of Lin Shen's base strength and the number of times his flesh shell had awakened, it should be 540,000 venerable power. However, the additional venerable power had not broken through this limit. Just as Lin Shen was increasing his strength, Sacred Boundary, Battle Zone, Coiling Dragon Mountain Range. Come on, let's fight to our heart's content. Damn it, do you think I'm afraid of you? Both of us have a head on our shoulders. Who's afraid of who? Do you believe that I'll destroy your entire family tree with one slash? In the coiling Dragon Mountain range, the disciples of the four famous sects were fighting each other. In the void, countless young talents were fighting each other, using many high-level and top-grade purple tier techniques. From time to time, one or two amazing half-orange tier techniques would appear. Stop! At this moment, a lazy and elegant voice echoed in the sky. Strangely, all the battles between the geniuses stopped abruptly. It was as if the entire world had entered a state of stagnation. Not to mention war emperors, sages, even Ninth Revolution sages and sage kings could not move this stagnant time at all. Everyone could feel that time and space had stopped, but they could not resist it. Their eyes were wide open, filled with shock and fear. These people don't have it either. They have never come into contact with the aura and fate of the stars. We've searched all the places in the mortal realm. There's no more news from the sacred boundary. Where should we go to find him? The elegant and lazy voice sighed softly. Another mellow and pleasant voice spoke slowly. Three-dimensional creatures really like to fight, just like the limitless sea of the godly realm. The elegant and lazy voice was slightly curious. It said that the godly Thearcha's remains have descended on this plane. The gentle and pleasant female voice had a hint of disdain. The godly Thearcha's remains here were merely pulled here by the demons from a high-tier plane's space-time gap. Compared to the true godly Thearcha's foundation, it's not even a drop in the ocean. At most, it's just a little incomplete divine fate. The elegant voice said, "That's right. Above the true God is the godly king, and above the godly Tharch is the godly Tharch. If this plane could contain the godly Thearcha's aura, Sister wouldn't have had to go through so much trouble for the stars back then." All the sages inside and outside the coiling Dragon Mountain range widened their eyes. Their eyes were filled with unconcealable fear, and their bodies were trembling. They clearly sensed that within a radius of tens of thousands of miles, there was no change in space, and no new creatures should have descended. Why was it that they could only hear the voice, but they could not sense the other party's aura and presence at all? They could not even detect a trace of space ripple. Could it be the legendary Ninth Stage Sage? Or a Ninth Revolution Sage? Or a Sage King? But that was not right. If a Sage King wanted to send a voice transmission, they could more or less sense the direction of the voice transmission. It was like a gust of wind. They could not see it or touch it, but at least they could feel it. But now, they could only hear the voice and could not sense any movement. In addition, this still space-time was too strange. Let's go to the next area. We cannot easily interfere with the fate of three-dimensional creatures. Everything has already been predetermined. This so-called sacred boundary of the human race has no future to speak of. Sigh. Nephew Xingqian, where exactly are you? If we still can't find you, the Lin family will no longer have a place to stay in the divine realm. When the two melodious voices faded into the distance, the space-time freeze was lifted. Boom! The attacks of the many geniuses that had previously stopped collided with each other, and their momentum was not yet stopped. A moment later, everyone stopped. Everyone was still fearful. They could not imagine what they had just experienced. They also seemed to have heard something about the divine realm. What about the sacred boundary of the human race having no future to speak of? 7 days later, outside a sky-splitting abyss in Xuanyu, hurricanes were raging everywhere. The space was shrouded in wind blades, and there was a completely different world. There was actually a huge canyon hidden within. The two sides of the mountain were in a half-moon shape, and in the center was a beast tomb. At this time, the beast tomb had already been razed to the ground. Two palaces, one ice and one fire, stood there. Many figures flew back and forth between the two palaces, and the atmosphere was especially tense and urgent. Inside the two palaces, many severely injured experts had collapsed in the main hall. They were Lin Chen's servants. They had suffered an unexpected surprise attack and serious injuries. Chapter 1703. Inside the Ice Heart Palace and the Divine Flame Palace. Is everyone out safely? Yes, but Senior Ling Er's injuries are too serious. She's still unconscious. Alas, Senior Xiao Ling paid a huge price to move the Divine Flame Palace and the Ice Heart Palace. His Excellency Zi Qianqiu is also unconscious. It's too serious. The enemy attacked when Senior Fong Ling and Senior Lang Fanyan left. Jiang Taishu's breathing was weak. He was also seriously injured, but he was still managing the situation. Everyone, we can't stay here for long. Maybe we have to change our strategy and give up some things. The enemy has a diviner on par with me. It's just a matter of time. Jiang Taishu spat out a mouthful of blood, his face pale. 2 servants hurriedly supported him and gave him 2 saint elixirs. Inside the Divine Flame Palace, in a space where the saint fire was burning, the grand elders of the Divine Flame Palace were protecting a beautiful figure, activating the saint fire to protect her life vein. It was Bai Ruoyan. However, she was unconscious, and no one knew if she was dead or alive. Beside her was Fairy Scarlet, who cooperated with the Grand Elder's Divine Flame Heart Sutra to protect her heart vein. Shun Lingshuang accompanied by Ruoyan all the time. Her beautiful eyes were filled with tears, self-blame, and unwillingness. Sister Ruoyan, in order to protect me, if I wasn't so weak, if I was as strong as Master, this wouldn't have happened. Shun Lingshuang's hair was covered with a snow-like divine light, and her starry eyes flickered with a strange divine light. Lingshuang, Shang Guanju patted her shoulder, interrupting Shun Lingshuang. She looked at herself, and Shang Guanju in confusion. Shang Guanju sighed. Don't blame yourself too much. You still can't fully control your martial god bloodline. Moreover, the enemy obviously has an intention this time. You're one of their targets. Shun Lingshuang said with a sobbing tone, but because of me, sister, silly child. Shang Guanju hugged her and said with a smile, it's because she protects you that you can't let her down and give up on yourself. Shun Lingshuang hid in her arms and sobbed. Shang Guanju suppressed the injuries in his body and comforted her. Your sister Ruoyan will be fine. She has the eternal sacred fire to protect her life. She was injured this time, but it drew out more power from the sacred fire. She will just be in a coma for a while. Nearly 10 days ago, Divine Flame Palace and Ice Heart Palace were ambushed. The enemies were from the Founding Century Alliance and Holy Prison, and they were led by 5 Saint Kings. If it wasn't for Lin Ping and Shangguanju, the head Grand Elder of Divine Flame Palace, and the servants risking their lives to escort them out, the consequences would have been unimaginable. However, what surprised Jiang Taishu and the others the most was the other party's methods. Divine Flame Palace and Ice Heart Palace had set up many protective measures in the miracle domain. Logically speaking, it should be extremely difficult for a Saint King to completely avoid them. Zi Qianqiu's 2-fold Daoist palace array formation was used to search for enemies. Xiaoling, Er's 1,000-fold spatial eye, Jiang Taishu's arithmetic technique, was used to conceal everyone's fate, and the aura concealment technique was used specifically by the annihilation of heaven and earth. Logically speaking, with so many layers of protection, even if there were enemies coming, they should have discovered them in advance and moved away in advance. However, the Founding Century's arrival was too fast and too sudden. It almost didn't give Ice Heart Palace and Divine Flame Palace any time to react. In addition, more than half of the servants' main battle force wasn't with them, which led to this tragedy. Jiang Taishu was almost certain that the other party must have an extremely powerful arithmetic master. Their combined strength and ability was definitely not inferior to his. However, according to Lin Shen's previous instructions, Xiaoling had built many spatial tunnels, and the spatial coordinates were especially hidden after being attacked. The top battle force of Divine Flame Palace, a group of Supreme Elders, immediately rushed to the rescue and cooperated with Lin Ping and to cover the servants' escape. As for the Realm Tower and Pill Domain's Elder Guild, as well as the many 8th-stage experts that had gathered. Most of them were scattered in the various domains in advance and weren't attacked this time. Although the price was disastrous, with more than half of the people injured, and 4 servants of the 17th floor and 10 servants of the 16th floor had died, the main force still had a breath of life left. They were desperately moved out by Xiao Ling, and Zi Qianzhou. In Iceheart Palace, Jiang Taishu said to the 2 servants, "Don't worry about me. Quickly go and see Miss Lung Yueqi and Miss Bai Ruoyan. They can't have any mishaps." Outside Divine Flame Palace, Fei Wushuang, whose robes were dyed red with blood, stood in the mountain gorge. Her delicate hands danced gracefully, and colorful light flowed from her fingertips. The 5-colored holy light rolled over and over as it bathed the many unconscious experts. Yu Wangsheng opened many jade boxes and used the power of his primordial spirit to mobilize the natural treasures and saint pills in the jade boxes. He drew out a huge amount of energy and channeled it into the bodies of the people, quickly healing their injuries. The 2 of them were extremely efficient in healing. However, what they lacked now was time. Among them, Ji Wuchen and Long Jiushan were in a severe coma. When they were attacked, the 2 of them unleashed all their killing moves, almost sharing the burden of several waves of attacks. They fought their way out of the encirclement and almost lost their lives. Jiang Taishu sent a telepathic message, "Sister Wushuang." Fei Wushuang looked at him and saw his eyes. She sighed softly and said, "Big brother Taishu, sigh, forget it." The latter's slender fingers drew a line, and a beam of 5-colored light entered Jiang Taishu's body. The injuries of his primordial spirit and body were temporarily relieved. Jiang Taishu immediately took out the carefree flag and used the heavenly cycle seal of life and death to send a dangerous message to his master. Jiang Taishu pinched his fingers and gritted his teeth while enduring his injuries. He calculated, and the life artifact of a fortune teller, the carefree flag, shone brightly with holy light. It's only a matter of time before the other party finds us. We can't stay here for too long. We have to gather Fong Ling and Lang Fanyun's strength and return. Guilt appeared on his face as he thought to himself, I also have a certain amount of responsibility. I thought that other than the Wuji elder, no one could surpass me in terms of arithmetic. I secretly hid it from my master and let Fong Ling and the rest search for the immortal Dawn's sex inheritance. Guilt. Jiang Taishu thought that he could predict all the heavenly secrets in advance. With Xiao Ling, and Zi Qianzhou's help, he thought that he could foresee any danger that came. Only then did he let half of the main force's combat power leave to accept the immortal Dawn's sex inheritance. But they were almost annihilated. He was ashamed to face his master. Even if I have to risk my life, I have to ensure everyone's safety. Otherwise, even if I die, I won't be able to face my master anymore. Jiang Taishu waved the carefree flag, and the starlight in the sky formed a star chart that stretched across the sky. He panted, and as he observed the star chart, his expression suddenly changed. They're gone. The fates of those sage kings who went to the mystic realm to launch a surprise attack have completely disappeared. It was impossible for such a situation to disappear. The only possibility was that their fates had been concealed, and he couldn't deduce the other party's location. Boom! At this moment, the barrier and the space of the hurricane region outside were broken. A group of powerful auras descended between heaven and earth. Jiang Taishu's pupils shrank. The founding century alliance had actually caught up. Is today the death anniversary of this old man, Jiang Taishu? In his despair, Jiang Taishu's heart was as clear as a mirror. Chapter 1704. Rumble. The grand elders and servants of Divine Flame Palace reacted quickly. Those who still had the ability to fight rushed out of the palace and appeared in the air. These little rats run pretty fast. Didn't Fong Ling and Lang Fanyun break through to the Saint King realm? I wanted to have a good fight with them, but there will be plenty of opportunities in the future. Let's start with these guys first. Divine Flame Palace. Divine Flame Palace. Why did you choose Lin Shen? One wrong step leads to many wrong steps. Don't blame us for being merciless. Lin Shen, who has the bloodline of the martial god, belongs to this old man. As the mocking laughter echoed through the world, hundreds of figures appeared in the void around the two palaces. Although there were not many of them, every one of them was strong. There were even a few Saint Talents from the Saint Talent ranking, especially the group of figures at the front. 5 Saint Kings had gathered. They were Saint King Ghostfiend, Saint King Qianquan, Saint King Tian Xiang, Saint King Yin Yang from the Genesis Alliance, and one of the most troublesome Saint Kings in the Holy Prison, Saint King Thousand Fox. However, when Jiang Taishu looked through the air, his attention was on a black-robed man behind the 5 Saint Kings. The black-robed man was in the center of the group, and because of him, the fate of the entire group was hidden. From his position, he was the other party's fortune teller. The black-robed man also looked at Jiang Taishu immediately. Under the black robe, an astrolabe was spinning slowly in his eyes. Dark red streaked across the astrolabe. It was extremely mysterious. It was Heartbreak Red, who was imprisoned in the holy prison, Eye of Hell, the number 1 fortune teller of the human race in the Antiquity Age. Unfortunately, Jiang Taishu, you have too many burdens around you. As fortune tellers of the same realm as me, you and I have never had a real face-to-face battle. Heartbreak Red shook his head self-deprecatingly. Shangguan Ju's beautiful eyes narrowed. He transmitted his voice to the girl in the green dress beside him. Grand Elder, we are surrounded. With our current combat strength, it's too difficult to protect everyone and kill our way out. The Grand Elder was expressionless. He said indifferently, "This is the result of our choice. Cover Oyan and the important disciples well. The truth is, we have lost the bet." Shangguan Ju said coldly, "Can't we let those old fellows come out of seclusion?" The beautiful face of the young woman in a jade green dress was as calm as water. They've already come out of seclusion and traveled to various galaxies. Even though I've sent a message just now, it's impossible for them to rush back in a short period of time. Shangguan Ju gritted her teeth, and her expression changed. "Why are you guys dawdling?" The impatient beauty transformed into a beam of light and appeared in front of the two of them. It was Lin Pingyan. She placed her hands on her hips and looked at the 5 saint rulers. She curled her lips and said, "Leave that androgynous fellow and the other 2 old things to me. Can you handle the remaining 3 saint rulers?" The girl in the green dress frowned and said, "You want to commit suicide?" She admitted that the pain disaster was powerful, but the holy prison's 1,000 Fox Holy King was at the same level as her. He alone could stop Lin Pingyan, let alone deal with the other 2 Holy Kings. Lin Ping, and brushed her hair behind her ear and suddenly smiled. "What he gave me, I will return to him." Boom! Disaster energy materialized, and Lin Ping and stepped on the 3 disaster poison dragons and flew away. The girl in the green dress and Shangguan Ju did not have time to refute. They could only follow Lin Ping in. The handsome 1,000 Fox Holy King raised his eyebrows, and a rare look of seriousness appeared on his face. Did this thing really turn into a spiritual body? Pain disaster, what a disgusting thing. Whoosh! Lin Ping and arrived, and her delicate palm was surrounded by layers of death calamity aura. She slammed her palm down. Many foxtails swayed behind 1,000 Fox Holy King, and he pointed. Bam! 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 The disastrous aura exploded and quickly condensed into 10 dancing poisonous dragons that charged toward the Holy King Ghostfiend and the Holy King Heaven and Earth. You want to fight 3 at once? Pain disaster. You think too highly of yourself. The 2 saint rulers each attacked and crushed the poison dragons. The saint ruler battle royale instantly began. Shangguan Ju and the girl in the green dress immediately intercepted Tian Xiang Holy King and Yin Yang Holy King. Shangguan Ju, the guardian venerable, was injured, and the chief grand elder was sharing the pressure for her, taking the initiative to attack the two saint rulers. The entire eastern part of Xuanyu was turbulent, and the space was turbulent. If not for the temporary stronghold set up by the two palaces at the border, many humans would have been implicated in this battle. The other experts of the Alliance immediately took action. The previous Divine Flame Palace Master appeared in a flash, and she led the Hall of Guardians to block the attacks of the Alliance experts. The servants who still had the strength to fight rushed to the front line without any regard for their own safety, confronting the experts of the Founding Era Alliance head-on. The experts who came this time were all at least rank 4 saints. Under the premise of many attacking one person, the injured servants also fell into a prolonged battle. Heartbroken Red, who was in the center of the Alliance team, yawned and said in boredom, "How boring." They planned to retreat to the space passage in the west, cut off their escape route. Heartbroken Red opened a scripture and slowly read it. He said casually, "Also, the daughter of the Einherjar bloodline you want is in the Divine Flame Palace. There is no one around her who can fight, so go and get it yourself." As soon as he said that, 7 saints immediately used their movement techniques and went around the main battlefield. Jiang Taishu gritted his teeth. The other party had completely figured out their route of action, and he was powerless to stop them now. In fact, if Heartbroken Red assisted the 5 Saint Kings in the battle and helped them predict the actions of Lin Pingon, Shang Guanjue, and the others, the Founding Era Alliance would win the battle even faster. However, Heartbroken Red was only in a temporary cooperative relationship with them. They each had their own ulterior motives. Hey, Wu Pianju is gone, and there's a replacement. Moreover, this one is more malleable and less unstable than Wu Pianju. We must take her down. There is still pain disaster here. As long as we take the daughter of the Einherjar bloodline and kill Ji Wuchen, Zi Qianshou, Xiao Ling and the others who pose a great threat, it will be a perfect retreat. The goal of the Saint Kings was very clear. They were here to kill Xiao Ling and take Shen Lingshuang away. Rumble. In the Divine Flame Palace, the door was broken in. The injured and unconscious by Ruoyan and Shen Lingshuang were surrounded by the Saint Kings. Whoosh! The 4 elders of the Divine Flame Palace were forced to retreat from Bairuoyan's side and face the Saint Kings. Shen Lingshuang was fearless. Her pretty face was full of determination as she stood in front of Bairuoyan and the elders of the Divine Flame Palace. Last time, Sister Ruoyan protected me. This time, it is my turn to protect Sister. The leading white-clothed saint glanced greedily at the unconscious Bairuoyan. He smiled coldly and said, "The goddess of the Divine Flame Palace? If she grows up, she will be a great threat. Kill her on the spot. This young master will refine her body into a female slave." TSK. The Saint King in white clenched the air angrily. The space twisted and twisted as he twisted toward Shen Lingshuang. Shen Lingshuang rushed forward recklessly. Outside, bang! With a loud bang, the aura of disaster exploded. Lin Pingon kept retreating as blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. She suddenly spoke to everyone telepathically. "Everyone, leave immediately." As soon as she said that, Shang Guanjue and the girl in the green dress narrowed their eyes as if they realized something. Saint King Thousand Fox reacted quickly and quickly telepathically. She wants to detonate her spiritual body and become a primitive pain disaster. Stay away from her. Chapter 1705. Heartbroken Red stared at Lin Pingon with great interest when he heard that Lin Pingon was going to transform into the most primitive pain calamity. He acted as if this matter had nothing to do with him. Is she going to fight us to the end? Be careful. The pain calamity is no small matter. It's not that easy to kill us with just the pain calamity. We can retreat, but once it erupts, she won't be able to. She'll instantly become the target of all 36 domains. The pain calamity of the past has been extremely tragic. She won't be the first, and she won't be the last. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. All the Saint Kings forcefully stopped fighting and retreated. Seeing the fear on everyone's faces, Lin Pingan felt a sense of familiarity, as if she had returned to the past. Her cute little face suddenly bloomed with a satisfied smile. It's not bad to be able to be a human for once. Rumble. The calamity energy in Lin Pingan's body began to become violent and restless, like countless ancient beasts that had been suppressed for a long time, wanting to pounce out. The entire sky of Xuanyu suddenly became dark and gloomy. Purple-brown clouds intertwined like cloud dragons and covered Xuanyu. Countless humans of the Xian domain felt an instinctive fear that came from their lives. It was as if an omen of calamity was coming, and there was no way to avoid it. The calamity descended, and all living beings felt the omen of death. At this moment, a large number of hidden experts in Xuanyu sensed the location of the calamity. Heartbroken Red waved his sleeves and put away the scripture. He stroked his beard and stared at Lin Pingan, clicking his tongue in wonder. Interesting. It's rumored that when the pain calamity erupts, it can trigger the calamity of the human race and even affect the luck of the entire human race. It seems that it's true. Perhaps I can make use of her to create an even greater killing weapon. However, the next moment, Heartbroken Red's expression became serious. Something's not right. There's a mysterious aura approaching. He immediately transmitted to all the Saint Kings. Be on guard. Someone's approaching. At this moment, a familiar laughter entered Lin Pingan's ears. Silly girl, you've held on long enough. The young man's warm palm patted Lin Pingan's snow-white shoulder, and the rampaging calamity energy in her body instantly calmed down. Leave the rest to me. Lin Ping was startled and tears filled his eyes. Hearing that familiar voice, Shangguan Zhu, Jiang Taishu, Fei Wushuang, and all the servants suddenly had a new hope. A tall and slender figure appeared in front of Lin Ping and, blocking his way. Everyone from Ice Heart Palace and Divine Flame Palace was ecstatic, almost crying tears of joy. Lin Chun had returned. My lord. Jiang Taishu was both happy and ashamed. All sorts of feelings welled up in his heart, and a trace of doubt grew in his heart. He and his lord had the universal heaven-death seal. So why didn't he sense anything when his lord was near? In the Divine Flame Palace, bang, clang, a section of the blade that was slashing towards Shun Lingshuang stopped in midair, motionless. What? The golden-armored saint was shocked. He saw that his blade had been blocked by 2 fingers. Shun Lingshuang was stunned. Looking at the familiar back in front of her, tears welled up in her eyes. Master! Shun Lingshuang hugged her master and sobbed. They ambushed us. Sister Oyan was injured in order to protect me. Before she finished speaking, Shun Lingshuang felt her master's body tremble slightly after hearing that Sister Oyan was injured. He said coldly, Lingshuang, they did it, didn't they? Yes. Before Shun Lingshuang could speak, Fairy Crimson, who was beside by Royan, gritted her teeth. These Saint Talents on the Saint Talent ranking wanted to capture Sister by Royan and refine her into a female slave, making Lingshuang into a substitute for Wu Piju. In that case, let's destroy them. Boom! Bang! A series of tremors shook the inside and outside of the Divine Flame Palace. Before all the powerhouses had time to be shocked by Lin Chen's return, a loud bang blasted out. The 7 Saint Geniuses were sent flying out of the Divine Flame Palace. Crown Prince, young master, are you okay? Your Highness, be careful. Lin Chun is back. The servants of the Saint Talents were about to rush up to protect their Saint Talents when a figure stepped on a cloud and swept past in an instant. The silver-robed man's hands were enshrouded in saint power as he grabbed the white-robed Saint Talent, the son of true martial arts, and pulled him horizontally. Splat! Rip! A tearing sound like brocade resounded through the sky. All the servants of the Saint Talents and the powerhouses of the Founding Century Alliance felt their hair stand on end, and their scalps went numb. The son of true martial arts, Xue Xiaolong, who had been recorded in the annals of history and was regarded as the envy of countless geniuses and legends, was torn in half alive. What everyone saw was a young and calm face. Under the calm expression, the starry eyes flickered with crazy, killing intent. Even the powerful Saint Kings of the Holy Purgatory had goosebumps all over when they saw this scene with their own eyes, and they were shocked. Tearing apart a Saint Talent with his bare hands. All the Saint Talents present today felt a chill run down their spines. Killing a Saint Talent with his bare hands. What the F***CK is this monster? Bang! Boom! The sky exploded with a roar, trembling and throbbing. Countless blood-red clouds appeared out of thin air in the sky above Xuanyu. The blood-red clouds shrouded the sky, and a violent wind and bloody rain howled. Waves of sinister wind howled, as if heaven and earth were weeping miserably. A layer of dark haze enveloped heaven and earth. At that moment, in the 36 regions of the sacred boundary, all the powerhouses of the heaven-opening realm and above sensed the arrival of this haze at the same time. The bloody rain fell, and heaven and earth wept. The depletion of providence and the appearance of a calamity. This was the phenomenon of the Saint Talent roll's demise. It represented the weakening of the human race's providence. One had to know that although most of the Saint Talents on the Saint Talent roll were not as strong as the top powerhouses, they had many life-saving trump cards. Even the Saint Kings were not very confident that they could kill a Saint Talent instantly. However, Lin Shun had directly torn apart a Saint Talent on the Saint Talent roll, and Xue Xiaolong, the son of true martial arts, did not even have the chance to use his life-saving trump card. Just how strong had Lin Shun become now? Lin Shen's gaze swept across the entire area, and his voice was as cold as a knife. You people of the Founding Century Alliance seem to have had a lot of fun killing before. Now it's my turn. Clang! As soon as he finished speaking, another phantom raised his sword and slashed furiously. Chi! Slash! A ray of sword aura was drawn from the tip of the absolute flame saber. The saber was like a tidal wave, spinning rapidly. The primordial gods had tears without a trace. The saber aura instantly split into 5 shadows. Saint King Thousand Fox narrowed his eyes. This attack is no small matter. He took a step forward and clasped his hands together. The 9 fox tails behind him bloomed, shining with snow-white holy light. He was about to receive Lin Chen's god's tear. Rumble. The arrow that could burn the 9 heavens and 10 earths released a sharp light that pierced through heaven and earth. It split into 5 and shot toward the 5 Saint Kings of the Founding Century Alliance from behind. What? Saint King Thousand Fox did not expect this move. His fox tails furiously curled like a peacock spreading its tail. The snow-white holy light surged as he and the other Saint Kings were forced to receive Lin Chen's sky-burning arrow head-on. When the fierce arrow light and heat wave exploded in an instant, the Saint Talents did not even have time to be surprised by the strength of Lin Chen's attack. The moment the 5 Saint Kings were caught, the Aurora Saber aura trembled and exploded into saber aura fragments that blotted out the sky. The saber aura fragments were like broken jade, twisting toward all the powerful beings of the Founding Century Alliance. This god's tear caused all the powerful beings of the Founding Century Alliance to tremble in fear. Almost all the powerful beings had the same thought in their minds. This kid must be crazy. Chapter 1706. Lin Chen's frenzied attack caused everyone to be visibly moved. He had actually launched such a large-scale attack in all directions. His people would definitely be caught in the attack. Was he planning to die together with his people? Bang! 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 Endless fragments of saber energy struck the area where the Alliance experts were. They tore the space apart, pierced through the ground, and shattered the sky. It was as if heaven and earth had been stirred into a ball of chaos. Even if the Alliance experts had sacred artifacts and trump cards that could travel through the void, they would still be pierced through by the saber energy. Unless they could surpass the speed at which the saber energy tore the space apart, they would not be able to escape. Instead, they would die even more miserably. Heartbroken Red, who was protected in the center of the Holy King team, had completely lost his composure. His eyes were filled with disbelief and astonishment. He had not anticipated the direction of this attack at all. He, Heartbroken Red, had not been able to predict this kid's fate. Strange, too strange. Could it be that this kid's fate had surpassed this dimension? But that was not right. With his cultivation level, even if he had surpassed the creatures of this dimension, he could still predict a little. However, this kid's fate seemed to have never existed. It did not belong to this world at all. When the smoke spread and slowly dissipated, the sky was dyed red by the blood rain and smoke. Xuanyu was shaken by this saber attack. This time, God's Tears battle results could be said to be shocking. Of the hundreds of Founding-era Alliance experts, only a few dozen were left. More than 90% of them had died. The surviving sages on the Saint Talent list still had lingering fears. They looked as if they had just survived a disaster. They were almost done for. If they had used their life-saving trump cards a little later, they would have died without a doubt. With Lin Shen's current cultivation level, using God's Tear would be a one-sided battle. Many sages still had powerful life-saving trump cards. Even if their defenses were pierced, they would at most be seriously injured. Death was the final step. However, Lin Shen's Extinction Rupture and Destructive Explosion talents would trigger a second chain reaction. Even if he was lucky enough not to be engulfed by the shards of the saber energy and only managed to survive with heavy injuries, once the Destructive Explosion talent was triggered, he would basically die without a doubt. Therefore, the most terrifying saber art was not the God's Tear, but the God's Tear used by Lin Shen. It was the real nightmare. After launching such an attack, I don't believe that the Divine Flame Palace is unscathed, injuring the enemy by 1,000, but losing 800 of your own men. Just as the Saint Talents and the 5 Saint Kings were surveying their surroundings, however, the scene in front of them completely stunned them. 3 layers of Saint energy barriers enveloped Divine Flame Palace and Ice Heart Palace, protecting most of the unconscious and wounded. 3 of Lin Shen's doppelgangers stepped into the air and floated in front of Divine Flame Palace and Ice Heart Palace. His 3 doppelgangers joined forces to unleash a Saint Power defense, which could easily block the attack of the Blade Chi fragments. As for the servants who were in the middle of the battle, they were also unharmed. The servants were wild with joy as they looked at their surroundings. Vaguely, within the reddish-gold halo surrounding them, a surge of yin-yang dragon chi surged and entered their bodies. All the servants felt a warm vitality, and the divine light was actually healing their injuries. This is too amazing. This is the Lord's divine dragon bloodline ability protecting us. And it's not just one exceptional divine ability. It seems like there are 2. The Lord's trip to the Dragon Clan this time is simply a shocking transformation. The servants' faces were filled with ecstasy. With their sharp experience, they could tell at a glance that Lin Shen had used 2 exceptional divine abilities above the exceptional divine ability. Taishi Divine Light plus Immortal Creation. The 2 bloodline abilities, one for defense and one for recovery, not only protected the servants' safety within the Blade Chi fragments, but also accelerated the recovery of their injuries. Unharmed, how is this possible? This is too scary. How strong is he now? Those that look exactly like him are his doppelgangers. His doppelgangers are actually this strong. The hearts of the saint geniuses trembled. They had heard of Lin Shen's legend, but they generally thought that Lin Shen's battle prowess in the Divine Flame Palace was mostly due to external forces. In just half a year, what kind of earth-shattering transformation had happened to him to have such battle prowess? This kid's Saint Power is actually not inferior to ours. In terms of Saint Power alone, only Big Brother Jinlong and Big Brother Qianhu can suppress him. Saint King Ghost Fiend's eyes were filled with disbelief. Heartbroken Red sized up the situation and immediately said, "Retreat." He pointed behind him, at the doppelganger holding the 9 Firmament Star Fury bow. If his doppelgangers all had such battle prowess, we wouldn't be able to touch them now. We've overstepped our boundaries in this operation. The most important thing is, Heartbroken Red looked deeply at Lin Shun in the distance and said, I can't see through this child. I can't see through him at all. Continuing to fight is an extremely unwise choice. Saint King Qianhu made a prompt decision and waved his hand, creating a spatial tunnel in the void. You want to run after showing off? Lin Shen raised an eyebrow and suddenly held the heaven-freezing sword. He raised the sword and slashed horizontally, divine power splitting the sky. A dazzling white sword fell from the sky and split into 5, smashing heavily toward the 5 Saint Kings. Kaboom! Bam! 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 The space disintegrated and exploded, shattering into paste one after another. Heaven and earth returned to chaos, and hundreds of thousands of miles of Xuanyu space was crushed into pieces. Have they escaped? Lin Chun exhaled, and the sharpness in his eyes was still as sharp as ever. Founding Century Alliance, this is just the beginning. Let this handsome guy play with you. Inside the spatial tunnel, the remaining Alliance elites were still in shock. That sword attack had almost hit them. If not for Saint King Qianhu's all-out defense, they would have lost another batch of people. Saint King Qianhu lowered his head and looked at the crack in his palm. The saint blood was flowing faster and faster, and it could not heal itself. He muttered to himself. Although he was distracted by stabilizing the spatial tunnel, he was still able to break through my defense and injure me. This kid's combat power has already surpassed that of an ordinary Saint King. Saint King Qianhu felt an unprecedented level of difficulty. It had only been half a year, and Lin Shun had already grown to such a level. If he was given another year and a half, wouldn't he be King powerful? Lin Shun, this kid is indeed the #1 enemy of the Holy Purgatory and the Founding Century Alliance. If we don't kill this kid, it's useless even if we kill his entire team. Saint King Inyang's expression was uncertain. Heartbroken Red was amazed, as expected of a young man who dares to challenge the hegemony. Today, my horizons have been broadened. Looks like there will be plenty of opportunities to play with Jiang Taishu in the future. Ha ha. Inside the Divine Flame Palace, Lin Shen quickly rushed into the palace. On a jade bed, Baira Oyan was unconscious. Her face was pale, and she was as beautiful as a withered flower. Lin Shan was about to impart the immortal creation bloodline ability to Baira Oyan when Fairy Crimson suddenly spoke up. No, Miss Baira Oyan has now entered a self-healing state. The eternal sacred flame is repairing her damaged heart meridians. Only by cultivating the same cultivation technique can she speed up her recovery. Any other power will interfere with the eternal sacred flame's automatic protection. When Lin Shen heard this, he asked in a low voice, "Are you sure she's not in danger?" Fairy Crimson nodded. "Yes, but the time she will wake up has not been determined yet." Lin Shen heaved a sigh of relief when he heard this. If anything happened to Sister Royan, he would rush to the Founding Century Alliance's headquarters and fight to the death with these guys. Chapter 1707. Right now, the only way to speed up Royan's recovery was to maintain the status of the Divine Flame Palace Elders. They all cultivated the Divine Flame Heart Sutra, so they could maintain Royan's sacred fire and maintain the vitality of the host. Therefore, Fairy Crimson assisted the elders, and the elders assisted Royan. Lin Shan was just turning around when the beautiful woman jumped into his arms and hugged him tightly. She raised her head slightly, tears and worry flashing in her cold, jade-like eyes. She said, "You didn't get hurt in the dragon race this time, right?" Lin Shen's heart warmed. Just now, Ice Heart Palace and Divine Flame Palace had walked through the gates of hell, but Lung Yuechi was still worried about him. Lin Shen, and not her. Lin Shen smiled and said, "What can a mere dragon race do to me?" Shun Ling Shuang jumped up and hugged Lin Shen with her tall and slender body. She cried loudly, "Master, you're finally fat. I was so scared just now. I thought I wouldn't be able to see Master in the future, and I wouldn't be able to eat so many delicious candies. Lin Shun was distracted by her bumping into him with a ball. After this girl's martial god bloodline awakened, her body developed at an especially fast speed. Now, it was different from before, and her body was only inferior to the little demon empress. Lin Shun patted the girl's head and scolded jokingly. The last part about eating candies is the main point, right? Come down, you're already so big. How can you stick to Master like this? Shunling Shuang shook her head like a frightened little rabbit. I won't. It's safest to hug Master. I want to hug Master's thigh tightly. I won't go anywhere. Lin Chen was so angry that he laughed. Then, the group of clones and servants entered Divine Flame Palace. Bang! Jiang Taishu knelt directly in front of Lin Shun, shaking the floor until it cracked. Master, this subordinate deserves to die. Jiang Taishu lowered his head heavily, wanting to kowtow and apologize to Lin Shun. Lin Shun waved his hand, and Jiang Taishu stood up automatically. He said seriously, "Don't do these things. Sit down and talk." Jiang Taisu, Fei Wushuang, and the other servants wore bitter smiles as they sat down, looking restless. On the other hand, Lin Chen's holy dragon was outside, healing the injured servants with the Yin-Yang Creation Divine Dragon's bloodline ability. The Yin-Yang Creation Divine Dragon bloodline was a true healing divine dragon. Its recovery speed was unparalleled in both the human race and the dragon race. Furthermore, Lin Chen's doppelganger's Saint energy was boundless and vigorous. Just by transmitting Saint energy to everyone, the normal healing speed was also very fast. In the main hall of the Divine Flame Palace, the Chief Grand Elder and Shangguan Ju did not disturb Lin Shun. From the battle strength Lin Chen displayed when he returned, the two of them already knew that he was not the same as before. When the two of them were adjusting their breathing to recover, Shangguan Ju said with a teasing smile, "Grand Elder, how is it? My eyesight is still not bad, right? The Divine Flame Palace bed on this kid is not a loss, right?" The girl in the green skirt said indifferently, "Don't be in a hurry to show off. You know in your heart how much power the Founding Century Alliance has united this time." However, Lin Shun is indeed the first person in many senses since ancient times. Even those peerless saint geniuses before the sacred boundary was established cannot compare to him. In the main hall, Lin Shun quietly listened to the recent events. First, the four World Seas brothers from the 17th floor fought the Founding Century Alliance in order to cover everyone's retreat. In the end, they self-destructed and died. 10 servants from the 16th floor also died in battle. However, their last wisps of spiritual origin were stored with Yuangsheng. In the future, if Lin Chen's cultivation was strong enough, he might be able to refine a body for them. He could also guide the spirit into the body and resurrect them. Perhaps their spiritual memories would be missing. The only limitation was that after resurrection, it would be difficult for their cultivation in this life to recover to its peak. It would not be a problem for them to be saints for the rest of their lives. Secondly, Fong Ling and the others had left the team at the last moment. Yes, they had accepted the last inheritance of the Immortal Dawn sect with Jiang Wan. However, Lin Shun did not know about this. If Fong Ling and the others had not left the team, even if the other party had sent out 5 Saint Kings of the Vanguard under the premise of cooperating with the Divine Flame Palace, everyone should be able to leave easily. Lin Chen exhaled. His eyes were full of killing intent and sharpness. Jiang Taishu thought that he was angry about his mistake and immediately said resolutely, "Lord, Taishu has no face to face you for letting Miss Ruoyan suffer such a calamity and the team suffer such a huge loss. I only ask that after the team leaves here as soon as possible, I, Jiang Taishu, am willing to commit suicide." Lin Shun was stunned. He immediately shook his head and laughed. "Taishu, you think too much. Admittedly, you all accepted the inheritance of the Immortal Dawn sect without telling me, so you all have a little responsibility. However, in the final analysis, It was because the other party had a fortune teller of the same level as you that the team was attacked. It was not your fault. Hearing that the Lord did not have any intention to blame them, Fei Wuxuang and the others breathed a sigh of relief. Indeed, with their understanding of Lin Shan, if Jiang Wan wanted to completely hand over the inheritance of the Immortal Dawn sect to Lin Shan, he would definitely not accept it. Firstly, Jiang Wan, who was the last successor of the Immortal Dawn sect. Her mission was more important than the other servants. The inheritance of the sect was the most important foundation to restore the glory of the 9th grade. Secondly, the inheritance of the Immortal Dawn sect was the meaning of Jiang Wan Er's parents' protection. It was the proof of their will to pass on the inheritance. If it was passed to an outsider, it was equivalent to denying everything of her parents. Therefore, if it was mentioned directly, Lin Shan would most likely not accept the inheritance of the Immortal Dawn sect. Only the servants would choose this kind of sneaky method. Jiang Taishu did not care too much and said seriously, "My lord, now that you have returned, our team will have to move as soon as possible. The other party has already discovered our location. I predict that the team will move to the ancient sword city of the sword region. Miss Qing Cheng and Miss Little Demon Empress are also there." Lin Shan raised his hand and smiled frivolously. "No, the team will continue to rest and recuperate here. Let's wake up Ji Wuchen and Xiao Ling before we leave. Otherwise, it will be slightly troublesome to move the Divine Flame Palace and the Ice Heart Palace." This time, it was Jiang Taishu's turn to be stunned. Even with the Lord overseeing, this was still an exposed location. If the other party gathered their strength, the next time, it would not be 5 Saint Kings, but 10 or even more. At that time, with the current strength of the team, they would instead become a burden to the Lord. Lin Shan smiled and said, "Taishu, let me ask you, what is the best defense?" Jiang Taishu said without hesitation, "Attack." Lin Shan said, "Then let me ask you, why didn't your complete Heaven's Death seal sense my return?" Jiang Taishu felt as if he had been struck by lightning. He looked around at the 5 Lin Shan present, and his pupils shrank. Could it be that everyone present was the Lord's doppelganger? In fact, the main body had not returned yet. Then, where did the Lord's main body go? Seeing that Jiang Taishu was full of doubts and had a face full of question marks, Lin Shan's doppelganger smiled as coquettishly as usual. "Taishu, you can focus on recuperating. I guarantee that they will not have time to mess with us. I am already preparing to go to the headquarters of the Founding Century Alliance." Jiang Taishu felt as if he had been struck by lightning. The Lord's main body was actually about to reach the headquarters of the Founding Century Alliance. The servants' mouths were slightly open. Both sides were sneaking into each other's homes to show respect. How could the Lord be so fierce? Jiang Taishu's mouth trembled. "My lord, your way of thinking really does not follow the conventional way of thinking." Lin Shan's doppelganger shrugged. "How high the sky is, how coquettish I am." An even greater conflict unfolded. Lin Shan challenged the Founding Century Alliance alone. Chapter 17:08. The best defense was offense. Even if Lin Shan's team continued to move, it would only be a matter of time before they were discovered. This would put them in a completely passive state. It was useless to repel them, but they would still regroup. They had to give them a strong offensive and catch them off guard. They had to be heavily injured before they could coordinate with many powerhouses. This way, the Founding Era Alliance would not take action in the short term, and Lin Shan's team would have time to breathe. Moreover, there was no one more suitable than Lin Shan. He was the only person the other party could not predict. As the candidate to infiltrate the Founding Era Alliance, he was the only one. Jiang Taishu said worriedly, "My lord, the current Founding Era Alliance is not what it used to be. They have already joined forces with the Wu family, the Holy Prison, and 3 other newly joined 9th rank sections. The foundation of the 12 9th rank sects is very strong. They have become a new hegemonic existence in the sacred boundary. Lin Shun said, "Since I dare to go, it means that I have already prepared a big gift for them. When the time comes, even if you don't use arithmetic to conceal the secrets of heaven and directly expose our team, they won't dare to touch us." Jiang Taishu was startled and bowed deeply. "My lord, this old man sincerely admires your choice." That's right. It was not that Jiang Taishu was inferior to the Heartbreak Red of the Holy Prison. Both sides were in the same realm, and the gap between them was very small. Without a real fight, it was difficult to know who was better. The reason Jiang Taishu did not deduce the Heartbreak Red was that he had to protect and conceal the fate and secrets of Lin Chen's team. He also had to constantly deduce and calculate the actions of the Founding Era Alliance. Hiding Lin Chen's team had imperceptibly added a lot of burden to Jiang Taishu. However, the Heartbreak Red did not need this. The powerhouses of the Founding Era Alliance did not need the Heartbreak Red to deliberately hide. He only needed to focus on deducing and deciphering Jiang Taishu's arithmetic. Therefore, the arithmetic contest between the two sides was an unequal contest. Lin Chen's doppelganger patted his shoulder and said with a smile, "Next time, I will give you a chance to have a fair duel with him. Let them know that I, Lin Chen's #1 diviner, is not to be trifled with." Jiang Taishu clasped his fists. "I will not let you down." In the easternmost part of the sage monarch domain, in the 100 heavenly palaces, clouds and smoke curled up as palaces floated in the air. Dragons and phoenixes danced in the air, and the vermilion bird and the black tortoise took form. A wisp of purple chi came from the east, illuminating the mountains and rivers, and the heavenly palace was illuminated by the holy light. It was like the sacred boundary, and fate covered the sky. This was the headquarters of the Founding Century Alliance. They gave themselves the title of Heaven and wanted to become the new master in heaven of the sacred boundary. He lived in the heavenly palace and looked down on all living beings. They had already monopolized a portion of the sacred boundary's karmic luck. During this period of time, many experts had broken through successively and defied the heavens, especially the Saint Talents on the Saint Talent list. There were quite a few people on the Saint Talent ranking who were still in the heaven-opening realm. They pursued a perfect advancement and would not break through easily. However, with the development of the Genesis era, they began to condense the providence of the sacred boundary. Their cultivation could be said to have progressed by leaps and bounds. Many of them had already reached the peak of the heaven-opening realm, and there were even First Revolution Saints and Second Revolution Saints. Headquarters, Heavenly Palace. Dozens of Saint Talents and hundreds of upper echelons of the Alliance gathered in the headquarters Heavenly Palace to discuss the matter of challenging the Yin and Huang regions. Young Master Shui Yi, who was sitting at the head of the table, said with a frown, "The Yin and Huang regions are really tough to deal with. Among the 36 regions, these two regions are resisting the most fiercely. They're also the ones resisting the most." Another valiant and beautiful saintess nodded solemnly. "Even their rank 9 sect want to fight with us to the end. These two regions have consumed a lot of our strength and energy." A burly saint genius in black armor sneered, "What are you afraid of? In half a year, 6 regions have already come under the control of our alliance. If this continues, suppressing these 2 regions is only a matter of time. When the time comes, we will surround and attack them. Do you think they won't surrender?" The white-clothed Saint Talent next to him, who had an elegant temperament and was full of confidence, shook his head and smiled. "Amy, your thinking is too simple. Those with weak minds and weak moral integrity would have surrendered from the very beginning when they should have. Those who won't surrender will not surrender, even if we fight for another era, 10 eras, or 100 eras. The Yin and Huang regions are destined to be a troublesome enemy, second only to Lin Shun." The eyes of a Saint Talent with a sword lit up as he drank heartily. "Speaking of which, how is the operation in the Holy Prison? Didn't the Heartbroken Red deduce that the other party has a daughter with the bloodline of the Einar Jar? She can make up for the lack of Wu Pianju's position." The mischievous green-clothed woman giggled. Maybe they also wiped out Lin Chen's team along the way. There hasn't been any news of him in the past half a year. Maybe he went somewhere to cultivate in seclusion and is too scared to come out. Buzz. A crisp and melodious sound rang out. All the St. Talents immediately stopped talking and looked serious. Everyone, this kid is not to be underestimated. The clear and calm voice of a young man came from the jade screen in the main hall of the Heavenly Palace. More than half of the spiritual marks that I controlled just now were shattered. The founding Century Alliance lost more than 400 experts, all of whom died in Xuanyu. As soon as he said that, everyone was surprised. Almost as soon as he finished speaking, rumble. The sky of the Holy Monarch domain rumbled, and the entire sky trembled and throbbed. Countless blood-red clouds appeared in the sky above Xuanyu. The blood-red clouds shrouded the sky, and a violent wind and bloody rain howled. The chilly wind howled, as if heaven and earth were crying miserably and sorrowfully. The 9 heavens and 10 lands were shrouded in a layer of dark haze. This aura first appeared in Xuanyu, and in less than half a day, it spread to the Holy Monarch domain. The bloody rain fell, and heaven and earth wept. Destiny was exhausted, and a calamity appeared. Could it be in Xuanyu's direction? Who is it this time? 2 of them died in such a short time. All the Saint Talents opened the Saint Talent list at the same time. They saw that the orange brilliance on the Saint Talent list gradually faded, and another name dimmed. It was the son of the lost holy nation, the son of Zhenwu, Xue Xiaolong. A Saint Talent died. Such a major event had happened twice in a row in such a short time. A clear voice slowly came from behind the screen. Xue Xiaolong is dead in Xuanyu, which happens to be the area where those fellows hid after escaping. It seems that they failed. The expressions of the dozens of Saint Talents changed, and it was very interesting. They knew very well what the death of a Saint Talent meant. Since the other party had the ability to kill Xue Xiaolong, they might be able to kill them too. Behind the screen, the tall figure suddenly stood up and said with rare excitement, "They're here." Just as he finished speaking, rumble, bang, bang. The entire Heavenly Palace shook, and 2 figures were blasted into the Heavenly Palace like shooting stars, creating 2 huge pits. The dozens of Saint Talents stood up one after another, and their pupils shrank when they saw the 2 people who were thrown over. They were the son of the 9 phoenixes and the descendant of the divine sword, 2 Saint Talents. All the experts stared at the entrance of the Heavenly Palace. They saw a figure step up the stairs and enter the Heavenly Palace. What entered the eyes of the Saint Talents was a man in a silver robe and a pair of black glasses. He walked over alone with a spear. The man took off his black glasses, and his young, handsome face was full of frivolous mockery as the corners of his mouth curled up slightly. This is the headquarters of the founding Century Alliance. The security is not very strict. Next time, can you send someone more decent to guard the outer palace? Don't use such repulsive people. They're not even qualified to pass the time. All the higher-ups of the founding Century Alliance were so angry that their eyelids twitched wildly. 2F** King Arrogant. A Saint Talent on the Saint Talent list was treated as a repulsive person. Chapter 1709. However, when all the higher-ups took a closer look, they realized that this person's appearance was too familiar. Could it be that this kid is Lin Shun? He's alone? He dared to barge into our Genesis Alliance with only 1 spear. This is too much. I can't take it anymore. How dare you say that a saint is a crooked melon? You're courting death. Many higher-ups slammed the table and stood up angrily. None of them had cultivation lower than rank 7. They were all higher-ups of the Alliance, and there were even 12 half-step Saint Kings. Clang! The sword roared like a dragon. An array of sword light flew toward Lin Shun like a jade dragon. The attack was earth-shattering. One of the sword Dao saints didn't hesitate and attacked Lin Shun. Although the attack wasn't strong, it caused the space in the Saint Monarch domain to turn into a vortex. Lin Chun stomped on the ground, and his shoulders shook. He activated Supreme Sky, Fu Heaven technique, and unleashed his saint power with him as the center. Rumble. Bang. The space array formation of the Genesis era's headquarters was sent flying. It was as if it had collapsed, instantly shattering into nothingness. Among the 100 heavenly palaces, the dozen or so palaces in the center were all sent flying. The situation changed, and all the phenomena in the Genesis Alliance headquarters were covered by a horrifying saint power. All the higher-ups were sent flying, and the first heavenly palace was shattered. In the void, while countless palace fragments were flying, Lin Chin walked in the air with his spear, quietly looking ahead. Damn it! How can this kid have such powerful saint power? Didn't they say that his trump card is pure strength? His saint power cultivation is also so powerful. Don't be careless. Let's attack together. When a majority of the founding Century Alliance's experts were readjusting their formation and preparing to launch an attack on Lin Chun in the college entrance exam, everyone suddenly froze. Even the powerful saint talents on the saint talent list were completely shocked when they looked at Lin Chun. At this moment, 100 hexagonal stars were shining all over Lin Chun's body. Each saint point was brewing boundless saint power that could move mountains and fill seas. All the higher-ups and dozens of saint talents felt as if they were struck by lightning. 100 saint points? What kind of F***king joke is this? A saint king in his early 20s? What realm is this fellow at? The saint geniuses were all dumbfounded. Even if they had extremely high standards, they had never seen such a scene before. Lin Chun had already reached the saint king realm, but that's not right. Out of his 100 saint cavities, 50 of them were in the same location, and there wasn't even any life and death chi in them. The mouth of a half-step saint king from a 9th-rank sect twitched. He trembled and said, "Does Lin Chun create a new cultivation system for the human race?" He went from the transformation realm to the Saint King realm. Upon hearing this, many of the higher-ups felt their minds explode, and their faces were filled with question marks. Was there such a ridiculous possibility in this world? Blood Universe Forbidden Art. 6 Young Heaven Burning Sword. Only then did the sword saint from before raise his sword in anger. His saint blood burned as he slashed towards Lin Chun. The 6 types of flames burning with the aura of extermination were quickly absorbed by the sword tip. When the sword slashed out, it turned into a shocking sword wheel that slashed towards Lin Chun. As soon as the sword saint attacked, dozens of saint geniuses responded one after another and used many ultimate techniques towards Lin Chun in an instant. The higher-ups of the Alliance didn't want to fall behind. They all used their strengths and attacked Lin Chun violently with many killing techniques. Lin Chun casually waved his hand. Rumble. The saint fire in his palm burst out, and a huge burning palm covered the sky with rolling saint flames carried the 9-layered fire seal. In an instant, it smashed down towards the Genesis-era headquarters. Bang, bang, bang. The saint fire burned everywhere, and the 100 celestial palaces turned into a sea of fire. The Alliance's protective enchantment was all burned through. The entire Genesis Alliance was instantly in a mess. Lin Chin's 9-layer burning heaven's palm had turned the Alliance into a pile of mush. Countless Alliance elites were shocked when they came out of seclusion. The Alliance's spatial enchantment was enough to withstand the attack of a Saint King realm elite. How could it be burned through and damaged to such an extent? Hundreds of higher-ups and dozens of saint talents either vomited blood or retreated rapidly. Their saint powers were distorted by the flames, and their bodies were charred black. The saint talents, who had life-saving trump cards protecting them, were not in danger. Only a small number of them were injured. However, the saint talents were even more shocked. There were a total of 42 saint talents present. Lin Chun was actually able to contend against them with his own strength. Even the higher-ups and the representatives of the various forces were repelled by him. Without a doubt, This was definitely the battle prowess of a Saint King. Could it be that he had really opened 100 Saint points and reached the Saint King realm? That was too terrifying. Stop hiding. Leader of the Founding Era Alliance, come out. Lin Chen's eyes flashed with crazy, killing intent. He wanted to make up for the attack on the Ice Heart Palace. The main Celestial Palace was shattered everywhere. Only the screen was undamaged. Whoosh! The screen slowly opened from both sides, and an extravagant and handsome figure slowly stood up. At first glance, almost everyone, including Lin Chen, could feel that he was different from the rest. The long-haired man was dressed in a long robe with a phoenix tail. He wore a feather on his head, and his long hair draped over his shoulders. He had a pair of delicate phoenix eyes, light crescent-shaped eyebrows, and a fair and feminine appearance. He was like an elegant and untainted prince. The most mysterious thing was that he had a pair of demonic and feminine five-colored pupils. The colorful eyes seemed to have endless magical power. At a glance, one's soul would be captivated, and they would fall into eternal captivity. Not to mention ordinary powerhouses. Even the Saint Talents on the Saint Talent ranking did not dare to look at his eyes. It was as if they would be controlled by his eyes in the blink of an eye. Prince Lin Chen, your name resounds like thunder in my ears. The man with colorful eyes was calm and composed, as if everything was under his control. Between his brows, there was a kind of confidence that was in control of the universe. This confidence was not conceit, but an absolute boldness that made people believe in him. Lin Chen narrowed his eyes. This person was not simple. He was also a Saint Talent, but he was on a completely different level from the other 42 Saint Talents. Suddenly, a touch of sincerity appeared on his fair and handsome face. He stretched out his hand to Lin Chen and said, Lin Chen, why do you care about the lives of those ordinary people? Since ancient times, the winner takes all. Overlords have always been built on endless sacrifices, and legends have always been built on seas of blood and mountains of corpses. If you and I work together, we will dominate the Saint Talent ranking. Boom! The dark lightning turned into a dragon, and Lin Chen's spear pierced forward. In an instant, the dark lightning was like a peacock spreading its tail, attacking layer by layer. The man with colorful eyes became serious. Lin Chen's attack was full of killing intent. The enhanced, plus 17, demon-slaying spear's sharp edge was not to be underestimated. The man with colorful eyes flicked his sleeves and waved the 9th-grade Saint artifact, the 6 Paths of Reincarnation fan. The colorful holy light formed a fan, condensing the aura of destruction and reincarnation of all living things. It turned into a beautiful vortex that swept across the area swiftly. Bang! 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 The beautiful 5-colored vortex collided with the sharp, dark lightning spear light. The 100 heavenly palaces were crushed by the aftershock and turned into dust. Countless experts in the Genesis headquarters were affected. Those below rank 3 saints were burnt to ashes after being slightly affected by the lightning. Those above rank 4, even if they were not killed instantly, their defenses would be completely torn apart by the extinction rupture injury, and they would enter a state of slow death. Only those on the Saint Talent ranking and rank 5 and above could barely escape or defend themselves from the shockwaves. The 5-colored light slowly disappeared, and the 2 people stood in the air. The young master with colorful eyes was full of interest as he waved his fan and pointed at Lin Chen. Interesting. You're actually on par with me, sharing the limelight. Lin Chen, I have to admit that you have the potential to stand at the top of the Saint Talent ranking. He smiled devilishly and beautifully as he said loudly. Speaking of which, I have not introduced myself. I am the current 10th on the Saint Talent ranking. Lin Chen raised his eyebrows. He was one of the top 10 people on the Saint Talent ranking. Chapter 17:10. There is no absolute difference in strength among the current Saint Talents on the Saint Talent list. If there was an absolute difference in strength between any Saint talents, it would be a battle of life and death. However, there were 10 people who were special. That was the top 10 on the Saint talent list. These 10 people were the peak of the human race in the sacred boundary. They were existences above the rules. The existence of these 10 people was the focus of attention of the various clans. Even the demon emperor and the divine dragon, who were supreme existences, valued them greatly. This was because they were the closest to the deity position. Lin Shun narrowed his eyes and thought to himself, no wonder the Founding Era Alliance can unite more than 100 Saint talents. In the same generation, apart from the top 10 on the Saint talent list, no one else has this kind of charisma. Interesting. The stronger the potential, the more attribute light balls. Lin Shen's eyes shone with the ruthlessness of someone who had nothing to lose. So what if they were in the top 10 on the Saint talent list? He would still beat them up. If he didn't beat up this son of a *TCH Founding Era Alliance today, he wouldn't be called Lin Shun. The Rainbow Eyes Prince opened the 6 Paths of Reincarnation fan, and the deathly aura of the unfallen reincarnation cycle circulated around him. He covered his smile with the fan and chuckled. I am Ying Jiufeng, the current 10th on the Saint talent list. Lin Shun, oh Lin Shun, I have long known that you're not the type to submit to others. His laughter was evil and charming. However, the more a man is like you, the more intense the pleasure is when I conquer you. Lin Chen's mouth twitched, and he felt a chill. Damn, this guy's not a pervert, is he? The next moment, Ying Jiufeng's expression changed, and he shouted coldly, the sacred boundary doesn't need 2 overlords. Boom! A pair of 9-colored phoenix wings spread across the sky, and countless colorful feathers floated down from the sky. Colorful lights filled the Founding Era Alliance headquarters. It was magnificent and gorgeous. Ying Jiufeng, who was spreading his 9-colored phoenix wings, was shining with 100 hexagonal starlight. The hexagonal starlight between his eyebrows was even more dazzling. It was as if there was a starry sky hidden in it. He was actually a Saint King. This scene shocked countless experts of the Alliance. The cultivation speed of the top 10 on the Saint talent ranking was much faster than before. Not good. Alliance Master 9 Phoenix is serious. Retreat. The battle between the top 10 on the Saint talent ranking is not something we can handle. Upon seeing this scene, the haughty sages began to retreat to the outside world. Lin Shun sensed an unprecedented bloodline pressure from his body, similar to the pressure of a divine dragon. Phoenix bloodline. Moreover, it's a pure divine phoenix bloodline that perfectly blends with the bloodline of the human race. Her background is not to be underestimated. Is this the top 10 of the Saint talent ranking? Lin Chen's fighting spirit rose, and he smiled coldly. Only the top 10 saints have the cultivation of a Saint King. Let me see how strong I am. Ying Jiufeng laughed. As you wish. Rip. The 3 vanishing shadows were like lotus flowers blooming in the sky. Countless lotus flower afterimages of the saber light slashed out. The 9th grade Saint grade flying daggers were showing their prowess. Summon the calamity. Ying Jiufeng pointed his finger, and a wheel rose above his head. It was actually a 9th grade Saint artifact. The dazzling golden disk of the 9th grade instantly revolved, and it overflowed with countless signs of calamity. Whether it was the absolute blade of hurricane, the explosive rise of the lightning tribulation, or a meteor shower, all of them struck onto Lin Chen's lotus dance. A 9th grade Saint artifact might be extremely rare for normal Saint Kings and Saint talents, but it was not too rare for the top 10 on the Saint talent ranking. Ying Jiufeng sensed that something was wrong. Although Lin Chen's flying daggers were strong, their cultivation techniques grade was not high enough. Logically speaking, he should be the one suppressing Lin Chen's lotus flower dance. However, their attacks were actually evenly matched. But just now, when his attack came into contact with Lin Chen's flying daggers, there was a moment of stagnation. Buzz! Space distorted and rippled. Lin Shen stepped on a cloud shadow, his body flying in the sky, and his spear smashed down on Ing Jiufeng's head. He hesitated, but Lin Shen would not hesitate. Rip! The spear tore apart the afterimage, and Lin Shen missed. Lin Shen, your movement technique is very strong. I indeed don't have an advanced orange-grade movement technique, but you want to compete with the descendant of the Divine Phoenix in terms of speed? You're asking for death. Ing Jiufeng, who was flapping her 9-colored phoenix wings, turned into a 9-color divine light and slashed down at Lin Shen at close to the speed of light. Clang! Lin Shen held the spear with both hands and swung it fiercely. Lightning flashed and stopped Ing Jiufeng, who was moving at close to the speed of light. Splat! The 9-colored blade still cut Lin Shen's shoulder, but his reaction was lightning fast. He suddenly used his knee to push against the spear, and the front of the demon-slaying spear bounced up. The tip of the spear rose and cut Ing Jiufeng's wings. Phoenix blood flowed out. Whoosh! The two retreated instantly, each with one injury. Lin Shen turned around like a dragon. 8 burning dragons rose above his head and roared toward the sky. 8 Division Burning Dragon Celestial Roar. The terrifying spiritual dragon roar transformed into a storm that crushed everything in its path. Ing Jiufeng formed a seal with one hand, and a huge true phoenix primordial spirit appeared around her. It was hundreds of thousands of feet tall and roared fiercely. Ancestor Phoenix Roar. The sound waves of the phoenix roar gradually expanded like a ring and destroyed layer by layer. Piercing through the countless burning dragon sounds like sharp swords. Bang! 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 All the buildings within hundreds of thousands of miles were turned into dust, and the space instantly distorted and collapsed. The terrifying cracks in the ground spread all the way to millions of miles away like giant pythons. The dragon's sound and phoenix roar shook heaven and earth, and the terrifying collision of primordial spirits could be said to be tearing the world apart. Countless experts sucked in a breath of cold air. Lin Shen could actually fight with the Founding Era Alliance leader, who was ranked 10th on the Saint Talent ranking, to such an extent. It was simply shocking. There was no doubt that he now had the combat strength of the top 10 on the Saint Talent ranking. The experts of the Saint Monarch domain, who had come out of seclusion, and a large number of reclusive old monsters kept looking over, and their hearts palpitated. Such a powerful space in the Saint Monarch domain was distorted to such an extent. If it were in other domains, what kind of earth-shattering battle would this be? In this battle of primordial spirits, Lin Shen was slightly inferior and kept retreating. Ing Jiufeng's colorful wings spread out angrily. She was calm and confident. She waved the 6 paths of reincarnation fan, and the 9-colored blade aura flashed wildly like feather blades. Rip! Lin Shen stepped on the cloud and retreated rapidly. The two of them sped up and turned into a beautiful beam of colorful light and blood-red light, flashing wildly all the way. The demon-slaying spear's afterimages were like tides. Lin Shen's spear technique was fully unleashed, supplemented by flying knives. Ing Jiufeng had the wheel of mountain, sun, and moon protecting her body. She held the 6 paths of reincarnation fan and attacked Lin Shen rapidly. Bang! 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 The two of them were like the aurora between heaven and earth, moving thousands of miles in an instant. They fought from the sky to the ground. Everywhere they passed, the Founding Era Alliance headquarters was completely destroyed. The experts of the Alliance retreated again and again, their expressions horrified. This was a true battle of the pinnacle. The combat strength displayed by the two of them was outstanding in the Saint Monarch domain. Chapter 17:11. Rumble. Boom, boom, boom. High above the Genesis headquarters, 2 divine lights surged back and forth like an aurora that could split open the sky. Every time the 2 beams of divine light collided and clashed, The overflowing saint energy would shatter the void that filled the sky. During the battle, Lin Shen scanned Ing Jufeng from head to toe and marveled in his heart. You really have a lot of killer moves. After refining thousands of high-grade odd crystals, along with the enhancement of ambolite, sacred artifact, and sacred artifact, as well as the increase in talent, you were able to fight evenly with me in the past when we had the same amount of holy power. Ing Jufeng was also shocked. He didn't show it on the surface, but he was more surprised by Lin Shen in his heart. Through the battle, he knew that although Lin Shen's holy power was powerful and even had hundreds of holy points, his actual realm was that his holy points weren't stained with life and death, and he hadn't even reached the heaven-opening realm. Therefore, his actual cultivation was only at the perfected transformation realm. Are you also a monster beyond the norm, Lin Shen? My interest in you is really growing. Ing Jofeng's body bloomed with brilliant colors. Palm of creation. The 9-colored brilliance gathered in his palm, and starlight radiated in all directions. Ing Jofeng's entire body was stained with eternal and indestructible Buddha nature. With one palm, all living things were destroyed. With one palm, the Genesis was shattered. The expressions of the many experts of the Genesis Alliance changed drastically. This energy fluctuation seemed to be able to shatter everything in the world. Even the reclusive saint kings of the sage monarch domain felt a ghastly sense of horror. This was a combat technique that was infinitely close to a top-grade orange technique. The palm gave birth to creation and control destruction. Ing Jofeng's palm crushed toward Lin Shen. This palm also contained the energy of 2 legendary supreme-grade odd crystals that only existed in legends. The energy of a supreme-grade odd crystal. Compared to a high-grade odd crystal, one was equivalent to 1,000. The two weren't on the same level at all. Since you want to fight, I'll fight you to the end. Lin Shen's movement technique stopped, and his shoulders trembled. Buzz! An illusory divine light appeared, wielding absolute blaze. Lin Shen's first avatar descended. His saber-wielding arm was enshrouded in flowing light as he suddenly slashed out. Torrential waves and rain, breaking the sky. When absolute blaze slashed diagonally, the blade shot out countless exploding rain of fire, bringing with it a violent and sharp edge. In the blink of an eye, it shot out swiftly. At that moment, Lin Shen's saber technique was already equivalent to Lang Fanyan's. Other than the lack of saber intent, there was almost no difference. Bang, bang, bang. The rain of blades shattered the sky and pierced through Aurora's gorgeous palm of creation, tearing countless holes in it. When a violent and blazing sharpness shot out, it scattered in all directions of the Alliance headquarters. Lin Shen just so happened to be in the territory of the Genesis headquarters. Once an enemy was caught in the aftermath of his battle, the speed at which they perished was far faster than when ordinary experts fought. The aftermath of the saber rain caused many experts to be swept away by the second wave of attacks before they could retreat in time. He didn't come here to fight and compete for the 10th place on the Saint Talent list. He, Lin Shen, wanted to fight until the Genesis Alliance couldn't raise its head for a short period of time. Chi, rip, holding the spear with one hand, a streak of dark lightning mixed with red light pierced through the final palm of creation. Ing Jufeng was shocked. A cloning technique that's not inferior to the main body at all? If one person can't handle it, another person will join. Winning with numbers? What a violent and simple tactic. Lin Shen, who was standing on a cloud, pushed the tip of the demon-slaying spear forward and collided with the 6 paths of reincarnation fan once again. Clang. The two of them were in a stalemate in midair. Ing Jofeng channeled more saint power and suddenly increased his strength, intending to use the second hidden force to pierce through the holy fan and hit Lin Shen. What? Ing Jofeng's heart trembled. When his hidden force exploded, it seemed to be blocked by a mysterious force. No, it should be said that it was stopped. This is not the first time. This guy's saying artifact has some mysterious power. Lin Chen quickly raised his spear for the second time. Ing Jiufeng stepped on a dazzling stream of light, swept his wings, and quickly retreated. Huh? He retreated? Lin Chen was slightly surprised as he looked at his demon-slaying spear. In addition to the orange glow of the enhancement function, the spear seemed to be surrounded by some mysterious power. Lin Chen said in surprise, "Speaking of which, when I was fighting with that heavenly mandate elder, it was the same. I thought it was an illusion. Could it be?" Lin Chen didn't say anything. He held the spear with both hands and swept it horizontally. Invincible thunder spear, annihilation of the world. Dragon-like lightning bolts appeared side by side and flashed toward Ing Jiufeng. Instant light split shadow. The lightning bolts contained Lin Chen's unique saint power and penetrated the first layer of defense of the wheel of landscape sun and moon above Ing Jiufeng's head. Bang! 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 The lightning bolts exploded all the way, including Ing Jiufeng's escape route. Miraculously, the lightning bolts that exploded in a certain place paused for a short time before spreading out. Ing Jiufeng happened to be in that place. He retreated a little awkwardly. Although Lin Chen's spear was powerful, it didn't really break through Ing Jiufeng's defense. However, Ing Jiufeng's eyes were full of surprise and astonishment. Lin Chen was the same. He stared at the 9th grade saint artifact in his hand with ecstasy. I see. It turns out that the special attack wasn't an illusion. It was indeed my ability. No, it should be the ability of my offensive saint artifact. It can affect time and space. Time and space stagnated. The current Lin Chen could do this for a short period of time. Although it was unconscious before, Lin Chen did notice its existence now. As long as Lin Chen used his strongest saint power and the saint artifact's strongest power, it would trigger this special ability. All of this originated from when Lin Chen was forging many saint artifacts, and he had Jin Wuxia and six-fingered Xinyuan fused with the ancient Aeon Dragon Scale. That dragon scale contained the divinity of the ancient Aeon Dragon. Otherwise, with the size of the ancient Aeon Dragon, the dragon scale would be much bigger. When the ancient Aeon Dragon Scale with divinity was cast into Lin Chen's saint artifact, it would shine when it was stimulated by the strongest attack. The reason why Lin Chen couldn't use this effect before was that his cultivation wasn't high enough. Even as strong as he was now, Lin Chen had to use all his strength to slightly trigger this effect. The second reason was that the saint artifact's grade wasn't high enough. Lin Chen's saint artifact's growth limit was 9th grade. Only when the saint artifact reached the peak could it shine with its special ability. Now, this special ability, with a small amount of divinity, could become Lin Chen's new trump card. Boom, boom, boom. The fierce battle between the two sides became more and more intense. They simply didn't care about the life and death of the Genesis-era headquarters. Seeing the battle between the two of them, the Saint Talents who were retreating were completely dumbfounded. They had imagined that there would be a gap between them and the top 10 on the Saint Talent list, but they hadn't expected the gap to be so huge. At this moment, 4 pillars of light bloomed, and 4 more auras descended. This is Lin Chen. How fierce! He dares to challenge the Genesis-era headquarters alone. A total of 4 Saint Kings, representing different 9th grade sects, had arrived at the Genesis-era headquarters. Lin Chen glanced around and saw that there were more Saint Kings joining in. The corners of his mouth faintly curled up. Yes, that's right, more. His operation this time was to steal from the Genesis-era headquarters. While Lin Chen's original body was fighting to his heart's content, his other doppelgangers had already begun to move. If I don't turn the Genesis-era alliance upside down today, my name isn't Lin Chen. Chapter 1712. There was the twin tormented Sage King, who wore a black and white dress. There was the great Void Sage King, who had a silver sage wool behind his head. There was the blazing Ghost King, who had a red halo revolving around him. There was the Ju Gung Sage King, who carried 2 swords on his back. The moment the 4 Saint Kings appeared, they surrounded Lin Shun and one of his clones. These were the Saint Kings of the 4 sects closest to the Genesis headquarters. The combat power of a Saint King was not to be underestimated. Even a 9th-rank sect could not send a Saint King to the Genesis headquarters for tea all year round. It was not realistic, except for the vengeful veteran forces like the Holy Purgatory and the Wu family. Therefore, those who attended the Genesis headquarters were mostly sect masters and family heads, and they were basically all half-step Saint Kings. And this time, for Saint Kings came at once, proving the efficiency of the Genesis headquarters. Ying Jiufeng sent a telepathic message to Lin Shun and smiled. Lin Shun, you have no chance of winning. It's not too late to surrender now. I still have enough leeway for you. Don't be so shameless. Lin Shun laughed mockingly. No chance of winning? Who gave you such confidence? Just because your brain is full of excrement? Today, I said I would destroy the Genesis Alliance, and I will do so until you reach the climax. No one's words matter. Rumble. 4 phantom divine lights descended from the sky and bloomed between heaven and earth. 4 Lin Shins with the same aura, charm, state, and appearance had appeared out of nowhere. At this moment, Ying Jiufeng's pupil shrank. He finally realized that this incident had already begun to exceed his expectations. The 4 illusionary doppelgangers stepped into the air and flew toward the 4 Saint Kings who had rushed over to help. 9-layer burning sky palm, extreme jade heaven opening sword, burning sky arrow. Once he attacked, the clones used their ultimate techniques and suppressed the 4 Saint Kings, shocking the entire Genesis Alliance. Clones? This kid's clones are actually comparable to his original body? A total of 5 clones. That's too scary. Each of them has the combat power of a Saint King. Doesn't this mean that Lin Shun is equivalent to 6 Saint Kings? Didn't they say that his original body could only reach the Saint King realm by relying on external forces, and his clones are not at that level? What kind of miraculous encounter did he have in these few months? The dozens of Saint Talents on the Saint Talent list were completely dumbfounded. Their mentality was once again hit them. Damn it. They were called the hope of the human race, but they could not even be compared to a clone. Most importantly, the other party was younger and had a lower cultivation than them. The people who were more handsome than them were from the same generation. No, the younger generation a few generations later. Comparing oneself to others is infuriating. Was this guy really human? If he was given a few more years, he would be defeated Saint Kings. Even a Mother Kerr wouldn't dare to write like this. Ying Jiufeng's expression finally changed when he saw Lin Shen's clone personally stopping the 4 saint rulers. His expression was no longer as calm as before. Instead, he was facing Lin Shen sternly. You're worthy of me using my trump card. Lin Shun, since you dare to barge into my alliance headquarters, you'd better show me the strength you used to sweep through the Saint prison that day. Otherwise, you won't even have the chance to escape today. Ying Jiufeng waved his palm, and 4 green jade bottles exploded. They contained the blood essence of powerful phoenixes. When they exploded, they turned into phoenixes, and the roars of phoenixes reverberated through the sky. 4 phoenix true king formation. Ying Jiufeng's blood essence burned fiercely as he waved his fan in the air. For crimson lights burned with raging flames, turning into light pillars that rose between heaven and earth. The shadows of phoenixes lingered in the sky, forming a powerful 4-sided barrier that shrouded the headquarters space. Crimson clouds burned, and blazing light drifted. It was as if heaven and earth had turned crimson, and endless phoenix cries reverberated. This was a formation space that belonged to Ying Jiufeng alone. Oh, what a powerful barrier formation. Lin Shen was surprised. Such a formation must have been set up by a prominent figure in the field of formations, and it must have been set up by Ying Jiufeng. Once it was formed, it could even easily trap 10 holy kings. He had seen Zi Qianzhou's formation and the key to breaking it. Lin Chun was sure that this four-phoenix true king formation must have been created by a formation master who was not inferior to Zi Qianzhou, or even stronger. Lin Chun was amazed. Looks like my guess was right. There are even more terrifying experts hiding in the Genesis, such as the fortune teller who is comparable to Jiang Taishu. I made the right decision to sneak in this time. If they had joined forces to ambush me, I would have had a hard time dealing with them. Rumble. The changes did not stop, and a scorching wave of air pushed Lin Chun back. Ing Jiufeng's entire body was emitting a 9-colored aurora, and his multicolored pupils were emitting different expressions and auras. He began to grow a tail, and the divine light on his wings increased dramatically. His eyebrows were like rosy clouds, and feathers grew from his arms. He was so beautiful that it was as if a real phoenix had manifested in human form. When the four holy kings sensed this aura, although they were suppressed by Lin Chun's doppelganger, they still felt a suffocating pressure. They were shocked. Lin Chun had forced the top 10 on the Saint Talent list to use their true trump card to deal with him. Ing Jiufeng laughed arrogantly. Lin Chun, feel honored that you are alive. To be able to live to see me in such a noble state, it is not an exaggeration to say that you are the luckiest human being. Lin Chun was once again moved. Good Lord, the top figure on the Saint Talent list was so King powerful. No wonder even the divine dragons and true gods paid attention to him. This was the first time he had seen someone with more god-level bloodlines than him. Phoenixes had 9 chicks, and every one of them was once a divine bird. Ing Jiufeng, on the other hand, had the phoenix bloodline, which was perfectly inherited, and he was a peerless genius who could cultivate human cultivation techniques. That's right, he had 9 types of divine bird bloodlines. Moreover, Ing Jiufeng could perfectly integrate human cultivation techniques, which was unprecedented in history. The phoenixes once had the same brilliant civilization as the dragons, but they were wiped out because they tried to occupy the Ashura tribe. Ing Jiufeng was one of the lucky ones after the Great War. He was protected by a true god and luckily survived. He was not only a descendant of the true phoenix, but also had the bloodline of a true god, which was a perfect combination. To be precise, he had as many as 10 types of god-level bloodlines in his body. Lin Chun, who had the system, only had 4 types of god-level bloodlines: the Atlas Divine Dragon, the Yin-Yang Divine Dragon, the Ancient Taishi Dragon, and the Extreme Hellwater Divine Dragon. Ing Jiufeng actually had 10 types. Lin Chun could not help but applaud him, his heart full of amazement. What a fierce man! The sacred boundary is such a vast civilization and epic, and such a guy was born. Moreover, he is so strong, but he's only ranked 10th on the Saint Talent list. Lin Chun was very curious. What kind of monsters were the top 9 on the Saint Talent list? Chapter 17:13. It was true that the stronger one was the different levels one came into contact with, and the scenery one saw was also different. There was once a type of divine bloodline that could shake the world. Now, in front of Lin Chun, there were 10 types of divine bloodlines in one body. Lin Chun, let me see what other trump cards you have. Otherwise, die. Boom. Ing Jiufeng's figure flashed. This time, his movement speed skyrocketed by 2 levels, so fast that Lin Chun could barely react. Bang! Lin Chun raised his spear to block and was blasted away. Ing Jiufeng pursued and attacked Lin Chun all the way. He used 2 ninth-grade sacred artifacts to unleash an even fiercer attack. The strength of his attacks was far beyond the battle of ordinary sacred kings. Even Lin Chun, who had many means such as technique strengthening and orange-gray talent, was facing Ing Jiufeng, who had activated all 10 types of divine bloodlines. Lin Chun and a clone, 1 spear and 1 saber, covered and cooperated with each other and engaged in a tug-of-war with Ing Jiufeng. When the 4 sacred kings who came to help saw Ing Jiufeng's combat power, it was a shocking sight. This is the combat power of the 10th on the Saint talent roll. Even if the four of us were to attack together, it's very likely that we would end up in a miserable defeat. The difference between the same level is actually so great. Even if one was a minor level higher than a Sacred King, it was not so easy to suppress a Sacred King in a one-on-one duel, let alone under the premise of the same cultivation level. Those who could become Sacred Kings were 1 in a billion geniuses. There was no such thing as absolute strength difference. However, the top 10 on the Saint talent roll were exceptions, because they were humans who were outside the norm. Reincarnation destruction. He fanned up clouds and destroyed the reincarnation cycle. With Lin Shun as the center, 3 vast wheels suddenly unfolded, and the center overflowed with endless destructive aura. Dark lightning force. Lin Shun went all out. The tip of his spear drew up a sky-covering lightning, and in an instant, he tore apart one of the destruction wheels in a flash. The clone drew its saber and slashed another wheel. Relying on the characteristics of the ancient Aeon Dragon, when a last wheel was about to explode, Lin Shun forcibly tore open an opening and rushed out with his movement technique. Lin Shun, who had broken out of the encirclement, was at a disadvantage the entire time. Ing Jiufeng laughed loudly and said, "Haha, Lin Shun, you came with your true body, right?" Ing Jiufeng spread his 9 phoenix wings and chased after Lin Shun. He sneered and said, "I know that you still have a supreme technique that can destroy the doppelganger of a true god. Since you came here with your true body, logically speaking, you should use this trump card now. However, you won't be able to use it in a short time, right?" Lin Shun raised an eyebrow. "Oh, looks like you've done a thorough investigation on me. Then let me test you. How many people are there in the Black Horse Club?" Ing Jiufeng's attacks did not slow down, and the corners of his mouth were filled with disdain and disdain. Ing Jiufeng especially admired Lin Shun's strength and courage. However, he disdained Lin Shun the most. How foolish. Lin Shun, you could have taken your people and left the sacred boundary to hide for a period of time. At the very least, you could have waited until you could use that trump card that destroyed the doppelganger of a true god again before coming out. That would have been the best choice. Ing Jiufeng's gaze fell on Lin Shun, as if he was looking at a dead man as he mocked. However, you chose to fight the Founding Century Alliance now. Could it be that you can't bear to part with those mortals? You're fighting for these lowly mortals? Foolish, too foolish. That's why people at the bottom will never be able to achieve greatness. If you want to conquer the world, how can there be no sacrifices? Ing Jiufeng said coldly. Confidence and courage that could control the wind and clouds flashed across his face. People are born unjust. In this world, the seed of happiness is limited. Lin Shun, what can you get in the end by fighting for these mortals? Fame, status, or pathetic self-pity and redemption? Life is the most lowly thing in the world. It can be replaced by anything, but you can't change anything. However, Lin Shun said, Lin Shun, do what I want to do. I don't care about life and death. There's no need to talk so much nonsense. Why don't you use one more move?" After saying that, he thrust his spear horizontally at Ing Jiufeng. Seeing that he was fighting for a long time, a trace of doubt flashed across Ing Jiufeng's mind. Why didn't he take out his trump card at this time? Why would he rather fall into a disadvantageous position and continue to fight with him? Looking at Lin Shun's unstoppable smile, Ing Jiufeng's heart suddenly skipped a beat. Could it be? A trace of uneasiness flashed across Ing Jiufeng's mind. Outside the boundary, time moved forward slightly. Almost at the moment when the boundary array was activated, the Alliance powerhouses who had retreated outside the headquarters breathed a sigh of relief. When their minds were at their most relaxed, host consumed 1,700,000 sacred rune energy to activate the slow rune. Whoosh! A grayish-white talisman that froze space appeared out of thin air and suddenly exploded. All the Alliance powerhouses fell into a temporary stagnation in the void. Rumble. Raging flames burned everywhere. 5 9-layer burning sky palms descended in an instant. 5 streaks of light turned into shooting stars, wiping out everything in their path. 9-layer burning sky palms. Wine demon perishing sacred finger. Bang, bang, bang. Hundreds of Alliance powerhouses were killed, and some of them didn't even know how they died. Many St. Talent's defensive sacred artifacts and unique techniques were activated passively for protection, and another life-saving method was consumed. This sneak attack was too unexpected. In addition, when the boundary array was activated, the powerhouses even breathed a sigh of relief. They died when their minds were at their most relaxed. What? Not good. There's still a sneak attack. Only the St. Talents could barely react. However, the stagnation effect brought about by the slow rune was extremely terrifying. It froze space like a golden soup. Those on the St. Talent list, since you've chosen to join the Founding Century Alliance, it means that you're already mentally prepared. When the cold, knife-like voice reverberated throughout the area, all the St. Talents felt as if they had fallen into an ice cellar, and a chill went straight to the top of their heads. Rip! A flying dagger whistled like a streak of light on a horizontal line, and swiftly slashed through the air. The knife flashed, and a head fell to the ground. Another person on the St. Talent list had fallen. 2 Lin Shun appeared like ghosts, one on the left and one on the right. They stepped on clouds and flew swiftly through the sky, killing many of the Founding Century Alliance's powerhouses. Their targets were the St. Talents on the St. Talent list. Lin Shun actually had a clone. This time, the St. Talents felt the fear of death from the bottom of their hearts. Only when facing Lin Shun did they feel what all life is equal meant. They deeply realized that even though they were St. Talents, they would also die in front of this man. Lin Shun's movement techniques were beyond the reach of ordinary sacred kings, let alone these St. Talents. They were still in a state of being ambushed and couldn't react at all. The knife flashed like lightning, and the knife flashed like blooming peach blossoms. Among the St. Talents, Instant Flash's movement techniques and attacks were so fast that they didn't even have the chance to use their trump cards to escape. One by one, the St. Talents fell under the knife flashes and clouds. Saint Blood covered the surroundings, and a rain of blood roared between heaven and earth. On this day, those rank 9 half-step sacred kings witnessed another historical change in the sacred boundary. Lin Shun massacred the St. Talent list. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.